like, yeah.
Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rivas.
Present.
Councilmember Green.
Present.
Councilmember Beltran.
Present.
Vice Mayor McCurvey.
Here.
Mayor Meister.
Present. Okay, this is time for oral communications. This is the opportunity to address the city council on any matter scheduled for closed session. Unless additional time is authorized by the council, all commentary shall be limited to 3 minutes.
Brought Neely address on record. Fernando? What you're receiving are two items. One of them is the statement of vote for Measure H from June 3rd, 2008. And what you'll see is on the backside is from Ballotpedia. It tells you the percentage of vote for victory on that measure. But where statistics lie, if you look at the backside on the statement of vote, total registered were 15,274. Total ballots cast were 3,996, which is 26.16%. The total yes votes were only 3,210, which was in actuality 21.01% of the electorate, not 83. The other thing is the grand jury report on election integrity, which just came out. If you read that, the full investigation says there is not a damn thing wrong with our election. It's completely secure and sometimes over-secure because of the measures put in place in the California Election Code. So there's no need for a voter ID unless you really want to spend a lot of money in court fighting, just like Huntington Beach is your second home.
Thank you, Mr. Neely. Is there anyone else?
This is for closed session, right, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
So we're going to have another one after this, right, for open session?
Yes, there's another opportunity for oral communication in the beginning of open session and at the end.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll just do it then.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else? Not seeing anyone. Okay, we'll move on to the city council closed session. City manager.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. We have one closed session item tonight, Government Code Section 54956.9D2, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, one case in which facts are not yet known to potential plaintiff.
Okay, we'll go into closed session and reconvene at 6:30. Okay, we'll reconvene open session. Nothing to report out, so we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I'd ask all to remain standing for an invocation. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there anyone that'd like to come forward and give an invocation? I'm not seeing anyone, so we'll just have a moment of silence for our fallen sheriffs in San Bernardino and then fallen police officer in New York.
And, you know, I'd like to add, Mr. Mayor, that we do a moment of silence for Will Lloyd and his family that were in a serious accident recently. So let's have a moment of silence.
Okay, you may be seated. Oral communication. This is the opportunity to address the council on any matter of interest, whether on the agenda or not. Unless additional time is authorized by council, all commentary shall be limited to 3 minutes.
Greg Shelton, 88 North Wilford Drive. Mayor and councilman, I looked through this budget just quickly, and I noticed a couple of things that stuck out to me, head and shoulders above everything else. One of them is on page 17. They talk about a denitrification project for 26, 27, 27, 28 to the tune of $60 million. The system we have now is what I believe is a chlorine and clarifier system, and then it takes the water out to our farming operation, which effectively does the denitrification. The denitrification aspect of that cost us exactly minus $100,000 a year because the farmer actually pays us to be able to use it. So I guess I'm a bit fuzzy as why we're even contemplating spending or being suggested that we spend $60 million on a denitrification project. I did the math, and even if we gave the farmer a raise and we paid him $100,000 a year, it would take 600 years to pay for this system. I thought maybe there was some mandate from the state, but what I'm looking, we use the same system that Tulare uses. Visalia uses a different system. No one uses secondary tertiary, except for people up some of the big coastal towns and everything else. So I'm a bit perplexed by this. Also, in terms of talking about our tertiary system that we have out at the airport, what I got is that we got $37 million in that, and apparently it's not working because we can't get enough water running through it. And so a system that doesn't seem to be working, we're advocating for doing in 2028, 29, 30, spend another $120 million on a tertiary system. And I'm going to give you one last number. Our plant that we have by the Walmart over there has got an 8 million gallon a day capacity. This tertiary we have by the airport has an $8 million a day, got 16 million gallons a day capacity. Okay, 18 years ago when I got involved in this, we were using 4 million gallons of water a day. Today, we're using 4.3 million gallon waters a day. So I'm kind of confused when we have 16 million gallon capacity now, and in 20 years, we've never been able to break more than $300,000, 300,000 gallons more. Why would we be considering $120 million projects to give us 50 million gallons capacity when we can't seem to get use more than 5? So anyway, it looks like a bit of a boondoggle, and I hope it's something that we don't pursue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. Is there anyone else? I'm not seeing anyone, so we'll move on to schedule matters. City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. This evening marks an important step in finalizing the fiscal year 25-26 budget as we review both the draft capital improvement plan and the city's projected fund balances. These two items are foundational to how we plan, prioritize, and deliver the infrastructure and services that our community depends on. The capital improvement plan outlines proposed investments across a wide range of projects, from road improvements and water infrastructure to parks and public safety facilities. It reflects our ongoing efforts to enhance the quality of life in Porterville while remaining responsible stewards of public resources. Complementing that, the draft fund balances provide a snapshot of our financial health and help us evaluate the long-term sustainability of our investments. With limited discretionary funds and a growing list of community needs, it's essential that we continue to align our resources with projects that deliver the greatest value to our residents. To begin tonight's presentation, I've asked Sarah Weaver, our project manager, to provide an overview of the draft capital improvement plan. Following Sarah's presentation, Tricia Whiteley, our assistant finance director, will walk us through the city's fund balances and share insights into our fiscal outlook. After Tricia's marks, staff will be available to review each worksheet of the draft capital improvement plan in more detail and respond to any questions or feedback from the council. We hope tonight's meeting will be an interactive discussion with thoughtful input from both the public and the council. Your feedback is critical in helping staff better understand the priorities of the council and the community as we move forward. At this time, I'll now turn the time over to Sarah Weaver.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Tonight I'll be going over the capital improvement plan portion of our budget. Some may look at our CIP and see a bunch of numbers and titles of things that don't really mean much to them. What I've come to see it as is a living, breathing thing that grows and matures and changes as projects are added and completed, additional funding sources are available, and input is provided from the council, staff, our community, and our community partners. There are three main ways that a project gets listed in the CIP. The first is if it's a city council priority. The second is by city council approvals, and the third is the evaluation of the city's overall needs. The first, I believe, is self-explanatory, but there's more that goes into the second and third ways listed, so I'd like to focus on those. One of the many items that city council approves is grant funding applications. Staff monitors grant funding opportunities to see if any line up with known needs in our city, and then will seek city council approval to apply for grant funding for a specific project. Each grant type has defined requirements, required deliverables, and deadlines for delivery. If any of the submitted applications are awarded funding, then that project is now treated as a city council priority to protect the current grant funding as well as potential future funding. Many of the grants have penalties for failing to complete a project that has been awarded, including having to pay back any money received, as well as being barred from applying for future grants from that funding source from anywhere from 2 to 10 years or even indefinitely. And this slide is examples of previous grant-funded projects. It's everything from widening and improving our main bridges on Main Street, Plano, and J, the Butterfield Stage Corridor, which is under construction right now, our Community Center and Park, which is also under construction right now. We have water tank projects that have been successfully completed, Fallen Heroes Park, multiple signal upgrades, new signals that are coming, street realignment projects, shoulder stabilizations, and multiple other pedestrian and water consolidation projects. For the overall city needs, multiple sources are evaluated to determine and track the overall needs of the city. Staff compiles these findings to create recommended projects that are then listed and presented for city council approval. The first few sources listed on this slide are all evaluated together to help determine the street projects needed. The pavement management system utilizes the Pavement Condition Index, or the PCI, which tells us the useful life left of a street. Determining the best treatment based on the PCI helps to extend the life of city streets in a cost-effective manner. We wouldn't want to reconstruct a road that has a PCI rating that justifies a more inexpensive treatment like a fog seal. The city's as-built tell us the type of materials that are installed for utility and the expected life left as the materials have lifespans. As streets and roads are evaluated, we must take into account the remaining life of the utilities below to avoid having to cut into newly treated or constructed streets. Staff must also consider whether master plan improvements are missing from an area, such as storm drain connections, sewer lines, water lines, effluent pipe, etc., that should be installed as part of a street project. There are different reports that staff have also has to analyze, and some examples of those are the SART report and different surveys and traffic impact studies. So staff analyzes those to help determine the need for other projects. The Serious Accident Review Team, or the SART report, identified staffing shortages across the fire shifts. In order to increase shift staffing, we must increase staff housing. Staff also considers traffic impact studies from environmental reports, which are generally related to proposed developments. They identify mitigation measures to alleviate negative traffic impacts caused by the new developments or projects. Another source of valuable information for our public is our public engagement and surveys seeking input from the community. It's a required step in most grant funding applications, and staff notes the things shared for current and future needs. In addition, City Council and city staff all receive comments and concerns throughout the year from the community, as well as our community partners, such as the school districts, the hospital, TCAG, Caltrans, businesses, etc. So there are many things to consider when listing activities for identified projects in the CIP under the current and future fiscal years. Staff must track grant deliverable deadlines to ensure the appropriate fiscal years identified to not risk current or future funding. They must also track the phases of the project from identification to right-of-way acquisition, environmental, design, and construction. The pavement management system helps identify the next streets to be improved, the type improvement to be done, and the correct timing to best utilize the funding available for each fiscal year. As I mentioned earlier, the as-builts tell us the remaining life expectancy of the installed utilities, and that information factors into the year assigned for different improvement projects. The needed master plans are factored in as well. Things identified in reports and studies help determine areas that need to be monitored or evaluated for necessary improvements to mitigate negative traffic impacts or other deficiencies. Public surveys and communication with community members and partners helps the City Council and staff to understand their wants and needs and suggestions to better our community and are considered when allocating funding each fiscal year. Now, historically, the projects listed in our fiscal year include all projects with either the potential to begin during that year or started in a previous fiscal year and are still underway. This method has created a budget that served as more of a playbook, in the words of our city manager, for the year. There are many different scenarios that could cause a project to begin in a later fiscal year than originally identified, but this method has offered more flexibility when things are delayed. Council can direct staff to continue this method, or they can direct staff to alter that method to include only those projects that must be listed because of funding requirements and those that will definitely be underway that year. The next few slides contain different funding sources. The first funding source is our general fund. We have multiple different general fund reserve or designated funds. They do require, when it's in those special funding sources, adopt a resolution for each expenditure attesting to conformity to the funding type rules. That is part of our municipal code. And then we have our franchise and development funds. But accomplishing the many different types of projects we have is dependent on the city leveraging its available revenues with outside funding sources. The next few slides detail some of these sources and what they allow, essentially the color of money. Some of them, such as SB1, Measure R local, and special gas tax funds, the city receives in regular disbursements. The many different grant types and funds like Measure R active transportation, Measure R regional funds, and other grant funds are received as reimbursements and dependent on the appropriate approvals and agreements being in place. The city must incur and carry the debt for those until reimbursement is received. I can go through each of these if you'd like at council's direction. They've been provided and we can talk about them, or we can move on. It's up to you.
I have a question,
Sure.
if I may. I'd just like to understand the CMAQ better. It shows prior to 2010 and after 2010 with a PM10 and a PM25 reduction. But it shows it's about congestion mitigation, air quality, but it shows a clear shift away from roads necessarily. And it's about congestion, which is fascinating, as I went through Henderson just now at 65, and it took me 10 minutes to get underneath the overpass. Can you help us understand this change in direction that's illustrated here?
So they're looking for alternative ways of meeting the standards for congestion mitigation. So roundabouts are tested to be more efficient, which means less idling, and idling in vehicles causes more air congestion. Bicycle paths provide alternate means of transportation. Ideally, if it's made accessible for you to use your bicycles to and from work or school, then you're also limiting the congestion that you're creating by using an alternate means. And then traffic synchronization has been found to be very important. We have areas in our town where we actually have a project we're working on that with Caltrans on Olive Avenue, Cloverleaf there near the highway onset. Those synchronizations there, when they're not timed up, then you have more idling people waiting, getting backed up. And so that again adds to more congestion, like air quality issues from idling there. So that's kind of been their shift. CMAQ's also an interesting one. Some of our grants, they're all about telling a story. CMAQ is your numbers work or they don't. So that they have a lot of formulas that go into it, and you have to meet certain criteria with the numbers on that. And Director Sanchez is here. He's really good at explaining it if you want more detail on it.
Well, and I would just state for the record, it's the Green New Deal set by California, right? And it's to go away from driving. They want us on electric buses and trains and riding our bicycles everywhere. So that's the goal.
And just to share why the change in around 2010 is, it's that PM10 to PM2.5. So those are 10 microns or micrometers. Those are the heavier substances in the air that were easily resolved by shoulder stabilization. So we had a lot of curb gutter sidewalk projects or like a gravel shoulder that you'd see out in the county. As trucks pass by, you kick up a lot of dirt in the ag areas, and to put a stabilized shoulder, depending on traffic counts, is typically 4 foot or 8 foot wide shoulders. It reduced that PM10 significantly. And so when we started meeting that PM10 goal easier, as set by the air board, then the focus changed to like, okay, we've been successful at this level. Now let's get the finer particulates out of the air, namely PM 2.5. And you don't achieve that with shoulder stabilizations. It's all the invisible things per se, which would be idling, eliminating the start and stops, keeping traffic moving like at roundabouts, alternative means, so getting people out of cars and getting them on foot or on bikes. And so that's the technicality of it. They're just the different projects. The projects had to change because of the different standard.
Our congestion hasn't gotten any better. It says 4 years in here, Director Sanchez. What is a 4-year? Does that mean it's supposed to sunset, or we just got to do this until we clean everything up?
So, no, so that's the 4-year blocks that the CMAQ grants are funded in. So earlier this year, we were awarded CMAQ grants for 2 roundabouts along the West Street realignment. And it fell in the first year of that, what they call the 4-year element. But if it needs a change, it can move around anywhere with the goal of trying to be within that 4-year window. That way we use those funds, and then we don't have to have them taken by another agency or lose them because we just don't put them to use. And that's a lot of what TCAC does. They're very good at partnering with other agencies, not just local agencies, but counties and state, to move funds around where some county up north might say, hey, we're not going to meet our goal. Can you take this money? And then vice versa. If we're not going to meet something, they'll offer those monies. All in all, our projects are maintained whole, but we do that type of partnering so that everybody can deliver their projects and look good.
Could, one last question while you're up here. Could you comment on the federal funding, FHWA and the CMAQ, and how they've worked against growth and worked against getting things done? And while this is a funding mechanism for us, how much has it slowed us down?
So knowing that there are more steps involved, it's comes down to that decision. Are we willing to put in the extra work to utilize those funds or not? Back until like the late 80s, early 90s, Porterville didn't really get into federal funding. The director at that time, or not the director, the city engineer, Baldomero Rodriguez. He was the one that introduced the city exploring these funding opportunities because we weren't getting too much done with only local funds. And so he introduced that to the director at the time, Hal Hill, then that was presented to council, and then it was, you know, are we willing to jump into this? And you know, it was a learning process, but once you learn the steps, which we've been doing, you know, since I came to the city, I've been involved in that in '08. Sarah Weaver came on and joined that effort around 2012 because her capacity changed. And so once you get used to it, it's you know, it's just a lot of forms that are filled out, but the environmental is still the same process. You know, it has gotten a little bit more cumbersome because each agency keeps tightening up and really looking at the book, and then on top of new regulations that are implemented to try and get cleaner. And so, you know, case in point, a bridge project is more significant than a trail project, but this Tule River Parkway Phase 3 that we're about to complete was a more cumbersome process and like 3 times more difficult to get through the environmental regulations than the Plano Street or J Street Bridge projects, simply because it occurred like 4 or 5 years later, and all of a sudden we're hit over the head with, well, you got to do this and that and so on. And part of that's also because state agencies have had staff reductions, and it's more difficult to get a response, you know, whereas you had folks assigned to different regions within the state, it changed to like a U.S. region. So like Fish and Wildlife, instead of having multiple reps just in the state or in each section per state, now the small staff handles the whole western region, which would be like California, Nevada, Arizona, you know, so they have more area to cover with less staff. So that's been part of that also.
So it comes at a cost, and it has slowed us down. We're starting to just question, is the juice worth the squeeze? And on a bridge project, it obviously is, but there's an expense and a time element, and that's what I was driving at. Thank you for those comments.
Yeah, that was a great job, Director. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question, Mr. Sanchez. Going back to CMAC, you said something about shoulders, sidewalks. Can you explain that to me again?
Yeah, so it started in 2000, the first shoulder stabilization project that the city took on, and it was the whole core downtown area where we just had the edge of the asphalt roadway, and then it went right into people's lawns and or dirt. And what this shoulder stabilization project did was create curb and gutter and sidewalks so that it provide a you know, as traffic would pass by, minimize the amount of particulate matter that would get kicked up.
So basically, kicking up dirt, kicking up
Correct.
dust. So
Correct.
maybe you might know, maybe you can answer it for me. Why hasn't Union Avenue been developed if we're so concerned about kicking up dust? I mean, that road's been like that from Indiana to J Street for decades.
Correct.
I have a question. I just if you could answer that
Yeah,
for me.
and it all came down to timing. There were certain roadways that were more of a priority than that one. When we finally got to that area, we were able to get grant funding on Indiana Street.
I see.
But
Isn't that where the mayor lives, the previous mayor on Indiana?
it is, but that shoulder stabilization happened before her time.
Oh, I see.
And so this was back in like 2012. We had 3 large last few projects, and we had a package ready to submit for Union Avenue because that was the next logical extension to stabilize.
Right.
But then the rules changed on us,
Oh, what kind of
And-
rules changed?
the particulate matter,
So Union never did get developed because of the funding?
because the funding we were targeting getting, the rules changed on us, and shoulder stabilization projects were no longer eligible. And so it's taken a while to gear up, and as you can see in the proposed budget, the construction's unfunded, but we are working through the design, and there's a lot of utility upgrades that we have to do in there that has slowed down our design, and not to mention right-of-way. We have to get some acquisitions. One of them entails buying an entire property with the home because it's just going to be in the way.
Well, maybe in the future, hopefully with this meeting today, maybe we can get Union Avenue on board and make that a priority, because it's been over, what, 2 decades, maybe, 10 years? Maybe we can get finally some sidewalk and gutter down that roadway. You know, I'm just suggesting, maybe.
And I, just to add, Councilman Rivas, I know that it is out to design in this year's budget.
Yes.
And then to buy the right-of-way acquisitions.
Right, yeah, I've seen that.
So that is on this year's priorities, and then it still is unfunded, but it's pushed out to 27, 28
Mhm.
to be looking for that project.
Yeah.
I know you're very passionate about that. and you
Yeah, I'll
can't-
just
And I'll
kinda-
share the timing of that too, is because right-of-way acquisition is a very timely process, especially when you're having to acquire entire properties with houses on it and people living in them.
Well,
So it's allowing for that. That's why it is out a couple years, and to allow us to help finding a funding source as well.
if my memory serves me right, I had a conversation with, I believe, a staff member, and they said they could have bought that property, I believe, that we're talking about on pennies on the dollar, and it was passed over for whatever reason. But for whatever it is, let's try to prioritize Union Avenue, please, and get that road going, and you know, finalize it.
I know that we will get to it in the discussion tonight, Councilman, and you will have your chance to voice your concerns on this coming up very quickly.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Sanchez.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I appreciate the input you had there and the historical knowledge on how CMAQ and all these things have come to what it is today, and it is a mess,
Right.
and it's not working for small towns like ours, so do appreciate that, Director.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Ms.
Anything
Weaver.
else on this one?
Yeah, I think, is there any other questions?
I
for
will
Ms. Weaver?
share on the house he's talking about, we attempted to buy it and we were declined. So we did try to buy it, but someone else was already in the process of buying it. So we were bid out on it. So
But to my understanding, it was, we could have bought it, but we, for whatever reason,
we tried. We bid on it.
we've been on it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And we did share with them that this was coming. If they bought it, this would be coming. They did not care.
So the only holdup is the house acquisition.
And the
It's
funding.
multiple right away and then also funding.
Yeah, the funding I understand, but basically the house in question.
It's the major hiccup, yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Weaver, I think we're ready to move on.
Yes. Anything on these slides with the funding sources? Again, it's all the color of money. They're different grant funds. They're available for different things, different requirements. Our HBP Highway Bridge Program, that's one of the ones that funded Plano and J. HSIP is where we get our traffic safety things like our, like Newcomb and Olive, you know, when you were heading north and south, you wasn't a protected left turn. That was done via these type of funds. And then we have our ATP grants funding. Anything here? No?
Mm-mm.
Okay. And then other local, state and local funding, very similar to the federal environmental requirements, all those things. We have the SB1, which is a part of the gas tax stuff, and that is dispersed to us regularly. And then we have to then submit each year, letting the state know which project we intend to use the funding for, and then they approve it, and then we move forward. So Main Street was a recent big recipient of that funding for all the phases. And then we have Measure R local, Measure R alternative transportation and regional. We have our Measure I measures, and then special gas tax funds. Any questions here?
Any questions?
No.
And then here's some examples on our projects of how I mentioned earlier, leveraging the funding to get them completed. So Main Street reconstruction, this is phases 1, 2A, and then 2B, which was recently awarded, in a mix of SB1, Local Transportation Fund, and Measure I to help cover all those costs. But we have an example of Butterfield Stage Corridor project, which is also under construction right now. And again, we've leveraged ATP grant with Measure R, AT funds, water replacement funds, because of the amount of water infrastructure, storm drainage, and the purple recycled water pipe. And then storm drain developer fees to help complete this project. The picture on the right-hand corner is the hawk signals that are being installed as part of that at our larger crossings. And I know it came up in our meetings yesterday, so I listed the areas where those are happening there for you.
Cool. Thank you.
And then Santa Fe Byway is another recent one, again leveraging between Clean California Grant and Measure R AT for transportation funding. And then what I've done here is created a graph and made a large screenshot of the different funding sources for each of our pages of our CIP. I can go over them now. Essentially, I just wanted them to be provided to you, because sometimes a picture speaks 1,000 words on putting those out like that. So we can wait and do for the page by page later if you'd like. We can, if there's anything you want to talk about on each of these, we can.
I'm not seeing any questions.
Okay, so with that, I think
That looks good.
Now we'll have Tricia talk about the fund balances. And Fernando, if you could pull up that page.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Now that we have addressed operating expenditures and shifted our focus to capital project spending, the next section will help us understand how these investments impact the city's projected major fund balances through June 30, 2026. It provides a comprehensive view of the financial status of our major funds, incorporating both estimated operating budgets and capital project allocations. The goal is to support informed strategic decision-making as we work towards finalizing the budget for the upcoming fiscal year. The fund balance worksheet includes 3 key components: fiscal year 2025-26 estimated operating budgets, capital project expenditures, and projected ending balances through June 30, 2026. A positive fund balance generally indicates financial stability or growth, while a negative fund balance may point to structural deficits, delayed revenue, or temporary timing differences. It's important to evaluate each fund within the larger context of an ongoing obligations, reimbursement timelines, and establish reserve policies. So our first fund we'll look at is Measure H sales tax, has a projected ending balance of $4.4 million, even with operating costs of $5.6 million and $722,000 in capital projects. This fund allows us to continue support of enhanced police and fire operations, along with literacy programs as approved by the voters. Our next is Measure I sales tax, has a projected ending balance of $2.3 million after a projected $10.4 million in operating and $14.9 million in capital project expenditures. Measure I is a general sales tax, but the city has prioritized its use to support public safety operations, including staffing and services. Additionally, a portion of this fund is allocated towards planned capital projects such as public safety infrastructure, equipment upgrades, and street maintenance. American Rescue Plan Act is our next fund. While the worksheet shows a projected balance of $1.3 million, all ARPA funds have to be fully expended by the end of December of 2026. And these have all already been fully allocated. Total expected expenditures for fiscal year 25-26 are $6.8 million, and this includes $50,000 in operating. Our next fund is our local transportation fund. This is comprised of LTF and Measure R funding. This fund shows $31.1 million in capital project allocations with an estimated remaining balance of $4.2 million. This includes funding for road and transportation improvements. Many of the listed expenditures reflect planned or committed obligations. committed allocations, some of which are multi-year or awaiting obligations. Keeping in mind that transit's portion of LTF is accounted for separately in the transit fund. The transit fund total estimated expenditures are $6.4 million in operating and $17.3 million in capital projects, with an ending balance of $9.7 million. This fund positions us well for major upcoming projects such as the new maintenance facility. So next we have our general fund equipment replacement. Has a balance of $10.3 million, allowing continued support for fleet and facility upgrades. This fund is designated for replacing vehicles and equipment with funding sourced from General Fund, Measure H, and Measure I. Our sewer revolving funds projected capital project expenditures are just over $5.5 million, with an ending balance of $1.8 million. Our wastewater treatment facility capital reserve fund projected CIP expenditures are $6.9 million, with an ending balance of $4.8 million. Funding for both of these accounts come from different fees and depreciation payments from the sewer operating fund. Water replacement fund projected capital project expenditures are $38.1 million, with an ending balance of $5.2 million. Funding for water replacement comes from fees also and depreciation payments from the water operating fund. I hope you all are still awake. Solid Waste Capital Reserve Fund projected capital project expenditures are $1.5 million, with an ending balance of $3.9 million. Funds in this account originate from grants and depreciation payments from the Solid Waste Operating Fund. So, last but not least, the funds that are need recurring ongoing monitoring we wanted to address was risk management, golf course, Zalad Estate, and landscape maintenance district. Risk management, the fund shows a negative balance of $9.12 million. This reflects outstanding liabilities for general, automotive, and health insurance caused by internal borrowing or insufficient premium contributions over time. The golf course has a projected balance of negative $2.9 million, and staff is exploring alternative management options for this fiscal year. The Zalad House and the Landscape Maintenance District, these are smaller funds that reflect modest deficits. In the case of the Zalad Estate, it's negative $80,621. This will be incorporated into the Parks and Leisure operating budget this fiscal year. And the Landscape Maintenance District is negative $113,000. This will correct over time through future assessments. So overall, the city's major operational and infrastructure funds remain in stable to strong financial condition. However, a few specific funds, most notably risk management and golf course, will require strategic planning to achieve long-term financial balance. These fund balances serve as a critical resource to inform and guide allocation decisions as the city enters the final stages of the fiscal year 2025-26 budget process. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
We're still awake.
Good.
I'm
not.
Bringing it back to council, is there any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Trish. I love this layout because it gives you the different perspectives. The ones that are most concerning that I'd like you to maybe go a little further on, we have these estimated balances in brackets. It looks like the Zalad Estate is going on 2 years. I know the Landscape Maintenance District was something that is just trending, but the golf course and the risk management, these are not 1 year items, right? These are multi-year items, like 10 years or something of that nature?
I'm not sure how many years, but they are multi-year items. They were addressed they were brought up to us by the auditors. So that's one reason why we're addressing them. But we are, the auditors are expecting us to come up with a plan, but it doesn't have to be something that's done overnight. So, and we have been talking with staff about that plan.
Well, I just wanted to delve into that a little bit. Thank you for the presentation. I just want to make sure that the public understands that, and the way that I understand this is that we have not been paying for the golf course or our complete risk management for going on 10 years. So we've been running a deficit just in those two accounts. That's like $1.3 million a year
Yes,
for about 10 years.
yes.
I have a question on the auditor, and sorry to steal your thunder here. Have we been hiring the same auditor?
I think we've had this auditor for the last 4 years.
That's
I
interesting.
believe.
So we've had the same auditor for the past 4
Oh,
years?
Same company, different staff.
Okay, for the past decade?
Not a term of time, so the auditor goes out to RFP, and that's how the auditor firm is selected. But just normal practice on auditing, you don't receive the same staff.
I think it was the staff
She's
the
seen
last
it
4
for auditors.
years.
So there's different staff that come in.
Right.
for the
I just find it coincidental that they found it this year. It's just
Well,
interesting.
and-
That's my,
If I could add a little bit to that, it's not that it was never identified. I think they were always identified. It's always up to council to address it. And so councils have kind of like, that's not a big number. So it got kicked down.
No,
It
well,
got-
just
well,
to clarify,
yeah,
no, the
yeah.
auditor spotted, the auditor
Yeah,
spotted
okay.
it
Every
spotted
year.
this year.
so you're
'cause it's-
wrong.
Well, no, I
No,
just,
they
because
spot it every year.
that'll be in front of you. I don't think the audit report's coming to you, so no, but I've seen it, so I'm just speaking on because I've seen it. So there's an issue with they've identified the way we're the method of record keeping on it is what is at issue, right? So, it has been identified, and you're right, Mike, so the auditors, it used to be like, I want to say 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there was actually requirements, we had to go out to change the firm so that you only kept the firm for maybe 2 years at most, maybe 3. And then the law has now switched back because it was very hard on public agencies to go out routinely to, having to constantly do RFP processes for their annual audit. So now the rules are, the standard practice is that if you're utilizing the same firm, they intentionally switch staff because they want fresh eyes on it on a year-to-year basis so that people don't get too comfortable because that was an issue back in the day. So there was something that's identified and Tricia is exactly correct. We have to come up with a plan because we treated those particular items as loans from the general fund. If we treat it as a loan, then at some point we have to have a plan for replenishing the general fund for covering those amounts.
Gotcha.
And,
And I appreciate that transparency. So what we've been doing is taking money as a loan and moving money to other places.
Right, so
For the past 10
rather than
years.
simply transferring it out of the general fund, right, which is really what it essentially we're doing, we were loaning it from the general fund.
I'm not sure. I mean,
I believe
can
that's essentially
find
what,
out.
that's my very simplistic fundamental understanding of this. But
So, I
and-
think maybe I could summarize.
Yes, please.
So the trend and trajectory of the last 10 years with certain things don't have to be paid because you can just pay it later.
Is that,
Are there other things in the budget we should look at that we should just pay later, Trish? This is a rhetorical question, don't answer it.
I was like, please don't make me answer
No,
that.
but the idea is that for 10 years, we've said it's okay not to balance the budget for 10 years. That's been the custom of the last councils for 10 years. And now this council is going to balance the budget, and we have to make
Right.
up for the last 10 years where they haven't been paying the bills.
Right, well,
Because
the issue is that it was reflecting more money in the general fund than what's really there because it was looked at as a loan that was going to be paid back. Which
Eventually.
allowed you to, which allowed you to treat it differently. But the problem with the auditor spot, it was like, you can't do that indefinitely. You have to have the plan so that it's transparent, that
Right.
that it's there.
Well, I mean,
So
if
it
you
can get
did that
lost
as a
track of.
business owner on the outside world, you'd go to
Right.
jail.
Well, I do want to say this, though, because we represent other public agencies, and I don't know if it's just happenstance, but we have another public entity with a golf course that also had the same issue, where it was just caught this year. So sometimes I also think that, there's just, there's more education for the auditors, and then all of a sudden they spot things that systemically had not been caught before.
Well, it's an unfunded liability against the budget, and.
Meanwhile, the general fund's carrying it, right?
Right.
Sure.
It's, we don't owe any third-party money due to this. We owe it to ourselves, but we need to account for that, because otherwise you're showing that your general fund has more money in it than it does.
When we go and spend $20 million of ARPA funds, and then we don't pay some of the things that we should have been paying, and when our budget has increased by more than $5 million aggregate over the past 6 to 8 years, that's another $30 million that the city has spent, and yet we didn't pay for these things. We're going to change that in this council, and we're going to balance the budget, but we want to have a reckoning here. This might have been past practice. This is not going to be the go-forward practice, and we need to put accountability where it belongs. We can't say someone should have been educated, or someone didn't look at it, or the auditor didn't catch it. That doesn't fly. We have to do the right thing for the people. The people expect us to do the right thing, and we can't go out there and not pay our bills and not fix our roads and not expect to have some issues. So I just want to make that statement, and I want to make it clear going forward, this councilman wants to balance the budget and be transparent.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Are there any other comments?
Yeah, I echo those sentiments, and I think if we need to practice this practice again, pay it back, because this is why we're in the hole that we're in, and we shouldn't be in this hole. I believe that we need to balance this budget. I want to balance the budget, and I want to move forward, and I want to focus on the roads, and we need to have this transparency, because this is uncalled for. We shouldn't have allowed this to happen, and this council, well, I'm speaking for myself, I'm not going to allow this to happen. So with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Councilman Rivas. Is there any other comments?
No, sir.
Okay, we can move on. Beautifully said, gentlemen.
Yeah. Big thanks to Sarah and Trish for their presentations. We appreciate it. And that was part of staff's plan, is to educate the council, give a little bit more information on the background on the how and the why the capital improvement plan is developed, and also be transparent about our fund balances. Similar to the budget meeting, staff is prepared to go through each page. I might say, due to the ongoing issues with our air conditioning system here at City Hall, we may want to move that project up, to this fiscal year if we can't get it resolved. But just saying.
As long as our police officers and firefighters have air conditioning, we're good here.
Okay.
We'll
that is on the
Then I just
list.
threw all the staff in City Hall under the bus, and then I.
Well, on page one, and I'll just highlight the page one, is we do want to reflect back on previous council priorities, and we do identify the previous council priority projects. And just a little bit of history. In 2023, the council identified these same projects, and then in 2024, the council voted essentially to carry these projects forward again. And so that's in the top right corner of the screen, shaded in what's got a shaded color in green for those that can see it. On the left-hand side is a summary of all the various funds that we're using to complete these projects. And as Sarah had did a great job explaining the fund sources, this goes into even more of a granular detail. But and then all the way at the bottom, you can see that staff has presented a capital improvement plan totaling $152 million. And as we work through the 28-page document, we can pause and answer any questions. I won't necessarily go through every line item, but for the council and the public watching and here tonight, I want to point out a couple of key projects that they may or may not be aware of. And so first and foremost, we've heard from the community and the council about the condition of our sidewalks. And so much like previous years, and for the next 10 years, The very first line item is our annual sidewalk and ADA improvements of 400,000 each fiscal year. That's our goal, is the amount that we're trying to perform to repair existing sidewalk and make other ADA improvements. And then kind of moving down into the next segment is our pavement preservation. And Mike, you can help me out with the details, but we identify it by the segment. So, for example, on Date Avenue between Main and Plano, there's an investment of 300,000. Councilman Beltran, yes.
Sorry to interrupt, just real quick, I didn't know how fast we were gonna go forward, but I was curious on the curb and gutter and sidewalk maintenance. I know we talked about the priorities for shoring up shoulders and stuff for traffic or the pollution. CMAC, where does a school fit in that? Because in my district is West Putnam. I don't live anywhere near there, but I'm like, that school's been there for 60 years and there's no curb and gutter. What makes that a priority versus, I want to say a random section of road, but a place where hundreds of students or vehicles travel by?
Right. So it just depends on the direction that we received from the council in place at that time. Some of these projects, we have been trying to increasingly partner with the school districts, and namely West Putnam School you mentioned. We're planning to do a Newcomb reconstruction project. Once we added up all the underground utilities that had to be looked at and revamped, and then the road reconstructed, the numbers blew up too much. We were trying to piggyback off of that project with a pedestrian corridor on the south side of Putnam and north side of Toma from Newcomb to Waukesha to create a pedestrian corridor through there. It's been left untouched for a long time because originally it was a county area, and we just inherited those areas, and because there aren't any major roads through there usually isn't any funding available for local roads. And so we created, we set aside some funding and talking with the school district, hey, as we look around at all the schools, what needs attention, and they just said we keep receiving a lot of feedback at West Putnam that there need to be improvements. It's like, okay, we're going to set aside $400,000 a year to, in essence, create like a internal Safe Routes to School program. And that's what we're currently working on and trying to put out to bid.
I think it's kind of a heritage thing, because in 1974, I used to go to West Putnam School, and I walked in that same area, and there was no sidewalks there in 1974 either.
Yeah, thank you, because I understood about the county islands that the city end up, even though they're in the middle of town, all of a sudden, we have to deal with it, and there wasn't a funding source. And thank you for the explanation with Newcomb. I can see where the utilities and other stuff would help with that overall development. I just didn't know why, say, 20 years ago or even before that, why a school wasn't a priority. And I get it, the PUSD just spent millions of dollars upgrading that campus, and yet the sidewalks weren't touched. So I know it's not all on us, but it's unfortunate that we can't find like a 50-50 deal or something for the safety of those students.
I think that's a great point.
I have
Go ahead, AJ. It's just that, we're remodeling the whole place, but we're not forcing them to put their sidewalk in over there. We would do that to any other citizen in town, right?
Great point.
But we wouldn't do it to the school. Yeah, there's definitely a lack of communication there.
Well, I will add, sir, that so school districts are like a pseudo-state agency.
Right.
We can set requirements for them, but they're going to see them as guidelines, and they do have immunity to say, thank you for that, but this is all we're doing.
Right.
And
I have how long has that been a county until we got, when it got into city?
I believe those were the original island annexation areas in 2006.
2006?
Mm-hmm.
And since 2006, it became city?
Correct.
Okay. So prior to 2006, you couldn't do anything because it was county?
Correct.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate the question, Councilman Beltran. Good discussion. We appreciate it and we're looking forward to more discussion like this throughout the night. Assistant City Manager, Mr. Knight, can you give a basic description of what the pavement preservation entails for the council?
So essentially, these are exactly that, a preservation effort to extend the life of the road. So it either results in a fog seal, a micro seal, a sealing treatment of some sort on there. It varies sometimes in thicknesses, just to explain that, given the portion of the road. But that is a treatment that is provided to extend the life of the road.
And then maybe just a little bit further, how the PCI
and we're talking about self-performed.
So yeah, moving on.
Self-performance
and happy to provide some clarity on those. So we have the treatment aspect. So then moving down to the lower portion of the sheet, we define what is, falls under our self-performed streets crews. So you have the efforts of the $3 million projected into the upcoming budget for the self-performed streets. We're already in phase 2 of those efforts after council's approval. So making some good progress there. You can see the monies towards the overlay program. We actually go out and secure a milling company to come in and do all the grinding for us. It's cost prohibitive for the city to own its own machine just due to maintenance and operation. We have funding in there that is identified for parking lot maintenance. That could be anywhere from a parking lot overlay or painting or a treatment similar to the preservation, fog seals, micro seal efforts. And then you have the citywide evaluation, which goes across our PCI. So you notice when the city brings our maps to council for consideration, we map that out on the city's website. We have a PCI sheet that was done under the last evaluation, which I believe was 2018, 2019. And we're looking to have the evaluation done again, so the whole city is surveyed for signs and markings and pavement condition. So PCI is Pavement Condition Index, and that's how we prioritize the streets through the city in our overlay program, in the self-performed overlay program. Happy to answer any questions on this sheet, should council have any.
You know what, I was mixing up self-performance streets program and pavement preservation. So we're going to go on to that next.
I covered both of them.
Okay, all right. Well, so what I'd like you to go just in a little more depth and just bring in transparency. Before I was elected, we were doing about 5 miles a year. We upped it to 20. Now we're going for 30 miles of self-performed street maintenance. What I've coined public safety resurfacing, maybe not the proper terminology, but how is the crews doing? How are we able to do more? Where are we at, Mr. Knight?
I would go back to the history. So we have been in a progression of taking on more performance over the years, and it has been driven by available funding. So I believe we started an upward trend prior to you coming onto council. We were making those efforts and strides. We had gotten up to around 9 or 10 lane miles a year prior to that. What made a big difference for the community is the implementation of Measure I to bring additional funds into those efforts. And we were able to get to roughly 15 to 18 lane miles once that was implemented. We also were able to acquire some additional equipment through that process and having the availability of the funding, which then was able to expose our staff to more abilities, right? So we basically honed that skill and developed it, what I would like to call a perfection for the staff that we have out there. They do a tremendous job and make tremendous efforts on attacking the reconstruction or the maintenance of the roadway. And so we've been very successful getting up to about 22 lane miles. Council has challenged staff to increase that. And of course, trying to meet the demands and the desire of council, we have forecasted that into this year's budget. So it'll be the first time to work towards that goal of the 30 lane miles that council has set. Previously, we had met about 22 lane miles, as I'd said before. The council came back this prior fiscal year, making a change mid-year, asking staff to add about 5 more lane miles to that. And so we were successful at the 25 lane miles. I would say that, you know, the efforts, we are able to keep up with it. We have been successful at the moment. But I think we'll need to just continue that moving forward. What does the additional 5 lane miles look like? What impact does that have on the staffing? Do we need to evaluate staffing? Do we need to evaluate equipment? Anything to make it better and more efficient? Because not only do we pave maintenance areas of the city or small pave outs that become issues in road sections, but we're also responsible for all the signs and markings in the city. We also install all the signs in the new subdivisions. We also are taking care of the school legends and crosswalks in the city and the intersections. So, you know, we talk a lot about the road maintenance, but there's a lot of credit that goes to the effort towards just keeping up with the markings throughout the city. So in a combination with that, just acknowledging staff is doing a great job. At least I feel that they are. And they've continued to rise to the request of council to take on more effort.
I echo that, and they are doing a great job, and it's great to see our roads getting paved in this fashion. Plus, we're also hiring out for construction work within the city. I'm looking forward to getting to that
Absolutely.
as well as we go through.
Just for clarification, you know, this is just our self-performed work.
Yes.
We have a ton of other street projects that are under reconstruction. This is just the maintenance effort for the
And
city.
city crews have been doing an outstanding job.
Thank
Thank you for that, Mr.
I'll share that with them. Thank
Mr. Knight.
Yeah,
Is
I agree
there
with that.
any other comments?
Yeah, I just want to say I echo those sentiments. When I go out there and I drive, taking my grandkids to go eat or just up and down the town, I see that the roads and your employees, city employees are doing a fabulous job. And I want to just say to them, thank you very much for that.
The police chief may not agree, but when people complain about speeders on our new roads, we take that as a compliment. So.
All right, well, that's a good time to transition to the third page. Thanks, Mr. Knight. We do want to highlight the downtown parking lot that will be constructed this fiscal year down next to the vault. Prior to starting that project, we do need to finish up Phase 2B, which is also identified in this capital improvement plan. But at the top of page 3, we want to highlight the downtown parking lot on Main Street that will be performed.
So the old J.C. Penney's, the hole that's been there for close to 20 years, will be being filled this year with the parking lot. It's going to cost the constituents about $1.2 million.
Yes, sir.
Continue on.
Yep. We have a couple bridge projects, mainly that'll go into design. They're in partnership with the county. The first one under our bridge section is Olive Avenue, the bridge widening project, and then the Olive Avenue Gateway Improvement Project. Planned for future development is our SO2 connectivity project. That's the next section. Those are planned in future years. So this is in preparation for future development. Any questions with those last couple segments before I jump into the?
I'm not seeing any.
Okay. And then the last section on this page is our Highway 190 corridor improvements. This is in partnership with Caltrans. The dollar numbers that are reflective on this page for construction is the city's local match to that project. And Caltrans is the lead, and we're supporting Councilman Beltran. Yes.
I did have a question on this, because I remember Caltrans did plan on here, and I see it on there, but it's in 27, 28 year of like a dog bone type roundabout. I had mentioned last year, if that is going to happen, I would really like to see a pedestrian type bridge or something like that. And I don't see anything on here yet, but I know that's a few years out. So I didn't know if that's still kind of in the conversation, because it requires probably some more property and what have you, and it might be expensive. But I just didn't know if that's still being kicked around. This was prior city managers I had spoken to about it. So can you speak a little bit as far as what the time frame for that might look like?
Yeah, I'll let Javier speak to that more in depth, but there has been, to your point, staff has shared those desires with Caltrans, and then maybe Javier, you can bring us up to speed on the regarding a pedestrian bridge and what.
And this is over Plano and 190. Just
yeah, and then just the timing, right? There's a sequence of events and projects that need to happen before we get to Plano.
That's correct. So I need to double check on this, but the bids should have already opened for the first phase, which would be the Westwood Roundabout at 190, the additional lane from J Street to the 65 interchange, and then minor improvements for the Main Street on and off ramps. And once work is completed there, then the next phase on 190 would be the Plano Street dual roundabout, and also the Plano and College roundabout just south there at Vandalia School. Right. And in talking with the traffic engineers, due to the nature of the roundabout and reduced speeds, it is, in their eyes, it's not likely that we'd get a pedestrian overcrossing. They're saying that with the reduced speeds and signage and markings, that they'll be yielding for pedestrians. Obviously the state route is high speed, but when you get to a roundabout, you start getting down to 15 to 25 miles an hour. That's why you don't see severe collisions at roundabouts, and why they've been popping up all over the state because of safety. And so that's our latest conversation. It could be something we could revisit with Caltrans. But they've gone through a lot of traffic models and analyses, from the staff engineers to higher level engineers at the state, and they're all coming back with the same results of no overcrossing.
Can I add to it too? Because I've had this conversation with some of the Caltrans employees at TCAG meetings on this, and we've talked about, and there was actually a presentation on pedestrian bridges, and one of the major issues is the ADA laws, and how the approach has to be at a certain degree, and it pushes it out so far that the vast majority of people, instead of taking the bridge because it's so far out of their way, would rather just jaywalk, which is legal today. But there's major issues with that, especially in the footprint that's there today. And it sounds like it's not really in the cards from what I've heard from Caltrans folks. And I'm just kind of, because I have dug into it a little bit.
I remember you had mentioned it too when I did, that having 4 schools across the street from a highway, trying to be pedestrian friendly, and I guess a lot of it might be a little push the traffic to Main Street to get underneath the overpass instead of a pedestrian bridge over. I used to live in that area, and I mean I saw tons of kids using that, and I'm like, as much as cars are going to slow down for a roundabout. I know it's the 3rd phase, so it might even be 5 or 6 years down the road, not necessarily 27, 28. Just as a resident, it's very concerning. As much as people slow down, we see all the skid marks and roundabouts because they're surprised by them. They don't know how to deal with them. I just hate for a kid, for something to happen just because we either want to spend the money or people thought it'd be too cumbersome. So that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to add one more thing. Because I share Councilman Beltran's insight on this. When we do the Main Street, Javier, which is in the plan here, the Main Street intersection improvements at 65, is there a focus on the pedestrian area under the bridge there in this project today that we are going to go into next year? Going under the bridge on Main Street?
Through the Caltrans project? Or our...
You're talking 190?
This was a Main Street intersection improvement, Main Street off-ramp terminal off of 190.
Yeah, 1.7 million this year.
Yeah.
Right, so those improvements are to create separate left turn and right turn lanes on the off-ramp as it gets down to Main Street.
On the dog leg?
Right. Right now, there's only one lane, and then a right turn at the very intersection. So
nothing for pedestrians in there.
Just ramps to create a crossing, and so that's that on the east side of Maine. But on the west side of Maine, we are doing the Butterfield corridor, which would provide pedestrian access through there.
I think until we can figure this out, I think we have to emphasize that area, because we got the Butterfield going in, and then we're spending some money down there, knowing that this is the safest place to cross, and even, it's a Plan B, Raymond, but I think we should emphasize that. I don't know what influence we can have over that. I mean, we're going to spend some money down there. Is there anything we can do to enhance that, to make that, to move forward with a pedestrian-friendly area, or is this just the road, just the turn lanes?
So they'll include the curb ramps and the path across those lanes. But as part of the Butterfield corridor, we do have a hot crossing at what was College Avenue, down at the southwest corner of the college, from the Butterfield Stage corridor.
That's only going to come from the west. Okay, I understand. I'm just trying to emphasize this, since we're going to be working in that area. What are we doing for pedestrian traffic in that area?
Right.
I have a follow-up question to that, Mr. Vice Mayor and Beltran. On the east side of, under the overpass, there is sidewalk and there are pedestrian crossings there. But yeah, we should highlight and make it more visible for safety reasons. But I was not aware of the Butterfield one, so so you were saying that there's going to be on the west side of the Main Street, that there's going to be pedestrian crosswalks or pedestrians that can cross over from College? Is that what you're saying?
And then one at, is it Vandalia? Vandalia and a Date are two other pedestrian crossings.
I see. Okay. Because when I go to the college for these the swap meets and have some of their delicious food out there, I see a lot of pedestrians crossing on the east side of Main Street on the sidewalk, and luckily there's sidewalks there. And it's pretty safe, but still, I like to see more safety-driven equipment there where it could be more safer, because there is a lot of traffic during the weekends down there and for the colleges and stuff. So I appreciate that, Mr. Sanchez. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Keep rolling.
Very good. We'll now turn to page 4, and at the top of page 4 is just more corridor improvements. I think Javier talked about most of them. The one that's funded this year is the Westwood roundabout. That you see that it has started construction already. The next major section, there are multiple, before I jump into the next section, there are multiple corridor projects planned for the future, as noted at the top of this page as well. We'll now move into the street segment, starting with Castle Avenue. We have design and right-of-way acquisition happening this fiscal year, with construction next year. Another notable project with the...
Can you go further into detail on the Castle Avenue extension?
Yeah, Javier, can you...
Sure thing. So our current status is that we've received appraisal reports for each of the 3 alignments that we were directed to do so by council. And we're just at a point to discuss those with we have a committee on that, right? We just got to review those and see which is the desired option from council to move forward with.
And this would be connecting Lombardi Street to Castle Street, right along the Bryant-Kern Canal area.
So this is Lombardi Street near the school, somewhere there, out to Matthew and Castle to the east.
Thank you for that correction. Yes.
And that way it creates another egress path for traffic to get out.
And this is one of those things, and not to hang it on the county, but in the school's location, that's been a major traffic issue in our community for 2 decades. And so it's good to see it here on the priorities list, and looking forward to that coming.
Very good. There's some color coding at the bottom of the page, and this is to help understand that there are other activities being performed. And so the blue shading for the 4th Street improvement is water, as a water main replacement. And so we do like to color code other activities that are happening, and you'll see in future pages a lot of infrastructure happening with road projects. Like Sarah mentioned in her presentation, we don't want to tear up a street twice to do underground infrastructure. So we try to tag on those infrastructure improvements at the same time. Sometimes they create a delay in the original timeline when staff evaluates it and realizes, hey, this is the time that we need to do some improvements underground. And notably, we'll talk about an intersection that is planned for this year that the timeline has slipped because we wanted to get some infrastructure underground as well. The 4th Street improvements is ongoing, and it's generally to improve the area that is going to be the community center. And then we go into, in future years, at the bottom of this page is the Gibbons Avenue Street reconstruction. Those are out in later years. On page 5, where you start to see a lot of shading, and they are color-coded. Purple represents our purple pipe for recycled water, and then blue is typically water, and brown is stormwater or wastewater. Correct, Mr. Knight? Yep.
Before we move on and go into the Public Works section and talking about streets, I negotiated with our county supervisor, I don't know, a year and a half ago on the North Grand and Main Street, and partnering with the county, TCAG, and the city, and putting in a turning lane there at North Grand and Main Street. And I noticed that it wasn't on the priorities list here, and so just wanted to get it on record, so it's something that we could be looking at here in the future. I know we had the talk behind doors, but is there any comments from staff that may know about it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do, Mayor. So we haven't forgotten, it is further down the list. It's on Main Street, the Main Street section, and it's all alphabetical order. So we've had some back and forth concepts with county staff. We're going to be replying shortly to some of their comments they had. Once we nail down the concept that both sides are comfortable with, the city would move forward with the design, with the understanding that whatever the and put it out to bid, and whatever the cost is, it'd be a 50-50 share between county and city. But we would be administering that project.
Wonderful, thank you, Director. You may continue on. Is there any questions on that? I'm not seeing any.
Which line item were you talking about?
You know, I don't know exactly where it's at. What page, do you know what page it is?
We're on page 5, right?
We are on top of page 5,
Missed it.
which was the Grand Avenue reconstruction 4th to Plano. And,
Okay,
and
got
then the mayor made comment regarding North Grand and Main Street.
It'd be page 6, the bottom half.
Oh, for the mayor?
Yeah, left turn safety project at North Grand and Reed.
Thank you.
25 million.
Wow. Oh, well, that's for a roundabout, and that's showing that that's out in 3132.
Right, and just below it is the left turn.
Oh, the left turn safety project on North Grand and Reed?
Correct.
Right above it, yeah.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Perfect, thank you, sir. Continue on, Mr. Tree.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mayor. And staff's going to bring out some water for the council and the public. I know it's getting a little warm in here, and so they're going to grab some water. So if you need a cold drink, let staff know, and we'll give it to you. All right, Vice Mayor, we'll make that happen. So on top of page 5, again, is a project that's happening this year, the Grand Avenue reconstruction 4th to Plano. And then we go into streets. Wait a minute, I'm on the wrong page on my laptop, my apologies. And then at the bottom plan for this fiscal year's Westfield Avenue Master Plan Utilities, that project is currently happening. You may notice the road construction happening there. And you can see from the coding or in description, all of the underground work that's happening on Westfield. Moving on to page 6, plan for this year is the Westwood partial reconstruction project from Henderson Avenue to Westfield, including Porter Slough Crossing. There's some environmental design, right-of-way acquisition, with construction being planned in 27-28. Any questions?
Mr. Tree, question on that, and then I'm really glad to see that because this is still an area of the city where there's another bottleneck, which is not far from Lombardi. It looks like the right-of-way and acquisition is given some runway there because the construction looks like it's 2 years out, 2 budgets out. If there's any way to pull that forward, I think we should try to pull that forward, but it does show unfunded, so just want to, as we talk about the 20-year issue at Castle and Lombardi, we have this other bottleneck with all the schools in the area that it's a high priority in our District 4. But I think throughout the city, the areas around the schools continue to be the big challenge, and that would help a lot if we could pull that forward.
Noted. Sarah or Javier, any comments on the timing of?
Yeah, that 2-year delay or that 2-year gap is to account for right-of-way. We have most of it, but there are some critical pieces north of the slough that we see might be contentious, or there's one where improvements will be right at somebody's front porch. And so if that doesn't work out, it'd either be a full acquisition of that parcel with the house, or what happened on prior projects, I think it was J Street, we built that owner a new house in the back. Once that was all done and finalized out, then we demoed the front house so there's separation between the street and the house. So a few options to explore on at least one lot that I know of that we're going to be encountering that situation. But again, the gap in time is because of potential delays in that right-of-way. And some environmental with the slough. Yeah, any waterway is a challenge through permitting.
Thank you for those comments. It's a high priority. It sounds like there's some challenges, so
Right,
let's keep an eye on that one.
And we'd be definitely pushing. If we can accelerate, then we will.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Javier. And then just kind of moving down towards the bottom of the page, want to highlight the Main Street Phase 2B construction. The council awarded this project a meeting or two ago, and that project is planned to be completed prior to the Veterans Day Parade. And then at the bottom of the page, we have Montgomery Avenue reconstruction project from J to H. And Tricia, Vice Mayor, would like some water. Yeah, there we go. Vice Mayor and maybe the other council.
Thank you.
And then if anyone in the public would like some water, we do apologize for the rising temperatures in this room. It was working good for a period of time.
It's probably the capacitor.
Probably so. If there's no other questions on page 6, we'll move on to page 7. At the top, you'll see all of the shaded color coding of all the infrastructure that will happen along Morton Avenue. This is a main arterial. This is where most of our main infrastructure is in, and there's a lot of infrastructure improvements being planned for future years. And then moving down towards the bottom, the Olive Avenue Median Island Safety Project, which is between Beverly and Maston. Design and construction will happen this year. And then we have some concrete improvements at the bottom of page 7 happening between Putnam and Toma Avenue for some safety projects. And moving on to page 8. Oops, some screen is moving back and forth. Apologies. Up at the top, we have more Street projects, Putnam Avenue at Elderwood, curb gutter sidewalk, pedestrian connectivity to Westwood at Thurman, with, again, property acquisition, design, and environmental happening this year, with construction targeting next year, as well as some water line replacement happening with that project. And then in the middle of the page, we have the Scranton Westwood West Worth realignment. This is a project that we've been working on for a while. The environmental was delayed a little bit. And Javier, you could speak more to this, but this is kind of, so this area is out at the airport, casino, sports park area, and that we're working with TCAG, who's a major partner in the funding on this, and have notified them of our recent delays. But it's in the works, and we hope towards the end of this calendar year, early next year, environmental should be close.
In talks with, Caltrans staff, probably around this time next year to clear all that. So we have two different sources of federal funding, CMAQ for the roundabouts, and then the CRF funding, which is a federal earmark that was initiated from, who's that? I'm forgetting right now what Congressman Valadeo's office. They set aside some monies for us for this project. Those two different funding sources have their own rules, but all in all, they fall under the FHWA umbrella. So working closely with Caltrans, we thought it would have been more straightforward because it's through our open field there. We're realigning the road, but it's the technicalities of it that they're considering that a fully new road, even though the current Scranton will go away. And so because it's new, it just requires quite a bit of studies. So we're just initiating that process with Caltrans, and going to press on that to try and keep it as quick as possible, but quick with this size of a project is about 9 to 12 months for environmental.
Very good. And that's part of, we need this project to happen in order for the runway shift project to happen as well, potentially extending the runway, giving us ability to bring in larger planes, and part of the master plan to grow the airport. So we're happy to see that project kind of moving along. Towards the last quarter of the page, I want to highlight a project in partnership with TCAG, the City of Porterville, and the Tule River Tribe of California. Is the Tule River Tribe Complete Streets and 2 pedestrian bridge projects. Because the tribe is not a member of TCAG, this is an effort to partner, build relationship. The city is taking the lead on this project on behalf of the tribe. We're working closely with the tribe on this project. It was planned a year or so ago, and it's just getting going. Environmental is happening, and we'll be giving a presentation to the tribe here in the next month or so, once we have firm project schedule dates. But this is a good project to further build our partnership with the tribe, and I'll pause there if council would like to make any comments regarding this project.
I would just like to say that's a great olive branch to the tribe, that we do care, and they are partners with us, with the city, and I like to see more partnerships with them, and hopefully we can bridge that gap, that we are a council that loves our neighbors, and we want to take care of our neighbors, and we want to work with our neighbors, and we would do anything within our means and power to continue that olive branch. So very good, Mr. Tree. Thank you very much.
And I'll just share on the funding on that. TCAG and the tribe are 100% funding it. So no city dollars, including for staff time, is being used for that. So we'll be reimbursed for everything through those two entities to deliver the project. We're just basically giving them our intellect and expertise on it to get it done.
Well, that even says volumes for it, because our intent was to help them. So And that gives them gives us the opportunity that we are a caring council in the city, and we would foster that echo with sentiment that we are extending an olive branch to them. So thank you very much, Ms. Sarah. Thank you.
Yeah, it just gives another opportunity for the collaboration between TCAG and our community members. So it's a great thing to see it go forward.
Yeah, and just to add here, Council, this project is one of 3 that has been deemed by Caltrans as high profile. All that means is that there's eyes on these projects from headquarters. I think it just goes to show the efforts of staff over the years of the work that they do and the bigger and bigger projects that have been taken on. And other agencies have been directed to us for those reasons is how do you guys make this work? So, they're interesting, they're intriguing, but we also have eyes on us from the state to see how this all goes, and we're doing all we can to make sure it's on the good side.
Great job, Director. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, staff. And to Councilmember Rivas's point, at the bottom of this page is Union Avenue. I do want to recognize that as early as 2023, this has been a council priority for Union. It's taken some time. Obviously, 2023 was a priority, and now this year we're putting some funds towards design and right-of-way acquisition. There has staff is actively working on this.
I appreciate that very much, and because I live in that district and I drive down that road so many times to and fro, and I appreciate that very much, and thank you very much for putting that on the packet and making that a priority. Thank you so much.
I'll share too, part of the delay is we attempted to redesign some of it to try to account for the right-of-way challenges, especially after the failed attempt at the purchase of the one property, and that's kind of what's delayed it from 2023. And so now we're moving forward from there.
Right, and to add to that too, the spaghetti of utilities there at Cottage Place, trying to work through that and figure it out and clean it up. There's just a lot of services running all over the place, again, being a former county area, needing to clean all that up to meet city standards and just to be able to track whose service goes where.
So that area is, for lack of a better term, spaghetti mess due to
That's what I was going to ask.
the multiple water systems. So there's multiple water systems there due to the age of the area. So there was a private system there on the south side of the road. The city acquired it many years ago. I don't have the date. It was a long time ago, and it operated as 2 separate systems. So part of the challenge was, so the project is, what you see the number is lower there, and you wonder, well, okay, well, why is some of the other designs higher? Because we're already in process of that. So we're probably about 60% design on this. What we found going through dealing with the right-of-way challenges was also some additional issues with the multiple water systems and the way they interconnected. And so the city has done some of that work internally. We went through and identified some of those connections. We've removed those, provided some service connections back to the existing updated mains that are in the road. And we've been working through that because the other challenges we had was this. We had to do away with flat rate meters by January of 25. And so through that effort, we had to go through there and find what was going on. So they've all been brought up to meters. However, the infrastructure needs to be included there to have stubbed outs for sewer, stub outs for water, for capacity reasons. So that we were on a trajectory to progress further into the design, but because of the findings we had there and the right-of-way challenges, it was a little bit of a delay, but we're making good progress on that, and we'll be looking to move forward. Just some history behind that. It's not that we haven't worked on it.
No, I know you.
A little bit more to the story.
I know you have. I just didn't. I just needed some explanation as to why the delay. But since you clarified it, it appears that what you're saying is it was a big mess. You're fixing it, and you fixed it, and now it's in the progress of getting taken care of.
Yeah, and it's consistent with annexed areas where we're bringing in the old county infrastructure.
Yes.
And trying to bring in the upgraded city infrastructure.
Well, I understand, and I appreciate that. It's just, I was just kind of curious as to why Indiana got sidewalks and Union didn't, so, first, but now that you clarified it, I appreciate that, so thank you very much.
Okay, moving on.
Not to talk about Villa again, but at the bottom of page 8 is we have one last project for Villa for the Porter Slough crossing that we have planned for this year. I know Villa was under construction for a while, but it turned out nice. I think the contractor did a good job, but we do need to finish the Porter Slough crossing.
What is it that is going in there?
Javier, you talk about that one?
Sure thing. It's a prefab box culvert. So because of the structural condition of that slough crossing, of the bridge, the most efficient way to expedite getting in and out of there is that bridge will be demoed. That was built back in the 40s. And they'll be craning in box culvert sections, 10 by 10s, to reestablish that crossing. And then obviously at the surface, we're going to finally have sidewalks through there so that people won't have to jump off the curb into the street and jump back on to whatever's there. So, part of that, a large part of that improvement is to provide that pedestrian connectivity.
Crosswalk.
I haven't driven down that section of Villa. And for some reason, I was under the assumption that it was done in the project. But hearing that this is coming forward, when do you think we'll be breaking ground on that?
So the disconnect, we would have wished it went with the street construction, but there was permitting that had to take place with the state agencies, Fish and Wildlife.
Yeah, waterway.
Yeah, so just the back and forth to secure those regulatory permits to have permission to get into the channel to do this work was a delay. We recently got those, and we're just looking to see if we can take advantage of and do another slough crossing at the same time. But if not, it's probably too late. It'll likely be like a spring project in 2026.
Okay.
Yeah, if we can expedite it, we would, but just the water deliveries currently now, and then the water season starting like November 1st, then it kind of really shrinks our window.
Thank you, Director.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring up Villa again, but I wanted to make note that we'll give them some time to enjoy the new road, and then we'll have some construction over the slough. Long time coming. Page 9, there's some planned projects in future year, but I do want to highlight just the amount of work, street projects that are planned for this year. When we look at a $150 million capital improvement plan, 1/3 of that is towards street improvements. So nearly 1/3, $48 million planned for this year. Very good. We'll go into our next section, which is on page 10, and we'll start speeding up here. There's a lot of projects. We've got about 18 more pages to go, but this is now entering in our signals section, and there's some really great projects being planned in regards to pedestrian safety. We talked a little bit about West Putnam and the safety of students, and it's been brought up in other council meetings about the safety of school kids. And so we do want to highlight the hawk crossings that are planned for this year. There's 3 noted on here. 2 of them are in relationship to the Santa Fe Byway, but there are actually about 6 additional hawk crossings that will be installed with the Butterfield Stage Corridor that is under construction right now. And so using the trails and the byways and the Butterfield Corridor, these are really going to improve pedestrian safety. And so we're really excited to have going from none of these in our town to hopefully by the end of this fiscal year to have 9 is pretty impressive. And they'll be great for the community. Those are I would say ranked number 1 for pedestrian safety. It is bright, in your face. It's actually like a traffic signal for pedestrians where traffic will see a red light when pedestrians are crossing. Second to that is the rapid flashing beacons. And so you'll see a lot of rapid flashing beacons being installed this year at all kinds of locations. And then the third, I guess, best pedestrian safety improvements is the lighted crosswalks. The lighted crosswalks, we decided to unfortunately push a couple of them to next fiscal year, and that's just going to allow staff to kind of evaluate some additional options because you may have noticed lighted crosswalks typically don't last as long with our weather environment. Unfortunately, drivers don't even see them at times, and so we know that it's been a priority for Morton to improve pedestrian safety near these schools, and so we wanted some additional time to look at some other options before we say, hey, okay, it's going to be lighted crosswalks. And so that's the reason why those 4 projects of late have been moved to next fiscal year. Any questions on the pedestrian safety projects?
I wouldn't mind just asking about the rapid flashing beacons, pedestrian crossing, Prospect and Castle, talking about including a curb and ramp. Is there a time frame when you think that'll be coming forward, Director Sanchez?
Likely, again, spring would be our target of 26.
Spring of 26?
Yeah, we're working through the design. That location specifically at Prospect and Castle, currently under a traffic analysis to determine if it warrants potentially like an all-way stop or traffic signal. And so a little bit more analysis there, but overall targeting all these areas as one group for the spring.
I appreciate that because I get constituents in that area. They really want a crossing to get to the sidewalk on the other side, and we've talked about this. So I appreciate the work going forward on that and looking to see what comes in the future. And then the going to the traffic signals, Newcomb and Mulberry, right there at Menachie High School. People have been calling for a stoplight in that area for many years. It was supposed to go out for design and construction this summer, but it's been put off because I think a storm drainage was added to the project.
That's correct, yes.
Is there a time frame when that's going to be coming forward?
I'm thinking that we're also targeting like a late spring to early summer. Part of that delay is we do plan to get that to bid this fall, but then there's a delay in the equipment. It takes
Gotcha.
about 8 to 9 months to secure that.
So with that will that even put us in the window of like summer? Or, I'm guessing that's kind of the plan is what you're doing. So summer next year of 26?
Right, and out of all scenarios, I think that'd be the most desirable so that we don't tear that whole area up right in the middle of a school year, or
Yes,
even
I'd
at the end
agree
of a
with
school
that,
year. Get in and out of there, at least with all the foundation work. And then after that, it's just setting and bolting down all the poles and setting the electrical.
Thank you, Director Sanchez. Is there any other questions on the crossings? Not seeing any. Go ahead, Mr.
Very
Tree.
good. Well, that will conclude our signals section. There's about, in total, 5.5 million planned in signal improvements and pedestrian crossing planned for this fiscal year. And then we'll now turn to page 12 and focus in on water. And I've asked Assistant City Manager, Public Works Director, Mr. Knight, to help drive us through this section.
Yeah, happy to do so, City Manager, Mayor, and members of council. Just to go through this, and please feel free to stop me at any time. Just provide the highlights, although it shows a high number of projects in the next fiscal year. Some of this is a program dollar that addresses issues that arise. So you see we have noted rehabilitation of wells. This was an item that came out of the drought conditions where we had issues where we had to go in and address column, pipe, upgrade motors, and address pump and bowls. So this has become a standing item as we have challenges with wells throughout, especially the summer seasons, with the unpredicted operations and demand for the city system. We have an item in here for electrical upgrades for water facilities. It's basically a combination of well sites, also VFDs, and upgrades to major panels. We've had issues where in the middle of the summer, we have an outage, power comes back on, whole panel fries. And so next thing you know, you're replacing a whole panel for a whole well site, and that is problematic. In portions, we've had to rent temporary panels to put in place to where we could get the permanent equipment. So those are all safety mechanisms to ensure that the city stays operational. This is a pipe replacement program that was identified back in 2016 through a rate study of addressing just downtown piping projects. So it supports those aged infrastructure throughout downtown. Noted in the consolidations, so we have Del Oro and Hope School. The city is currently under funding agreements with the State Water Resource Control Board. That is a reimbursement grant, and that is to take on those water systems that are facing issues with safe drinking water. So in both conditions, they both experience high nitrates, boil water notices. The Hope School has been on a bottled water program since about, I believe, 2007. So it's a long time coming. We made a lot of progress. We have 100% plans on Del Oro, working through the escrow and the purchase on the project. Hope School, I believe we're at 90% plans, so looking to work through that. Caltrans review and DSA with the school district. We've identified a couple well sites here for future development. Currently, well 37, we will be going into that. We have the bid packet, we'll be going out to bid, securing that. We've noted the upcoming fiscal year as Vice Mayor's project, the mixed meter project. So there's the $100,000 to finish that project off. We have identified GSA. So GSA expenditures are noted in here. We feel that we have enough money to cover the deviation, whether the council chooses to go standalone or partner with member agencies locally to continue an effort for a GSA. And then a number of Sigma recharge projects that would facilitate sustainability throughout the city that had been identified. The one project there, the North Basin, that was a partnership agreement with Porterville Irrigation District previously. We ran into an issue with an environmental document on that, so that project was delayed. So this is a carryover project from prior budget. And the plan is this year is to get the basin evaluated and constructed in advance of the next effort to make the connection to the Frank Kern Canal.
And how many, because it's every 3 years, I think you said that
Every 3 years.
they
So
do
we're-
maintenance, so we're 2 years out.
We're 2 years out. Going into any notable projects, the tertiary treatment plant project. So this is an effort to work towards tertiary treatment at the corporation yard. So this would be a conversion of our wastewater treatment plant. There's a number of impacts here at our wastewater treatment plant, but this is just the initial design and an effort to meet those discharge requirements. And it comes back up in the CIP, so I'll follow up on that more instead of delaying council's time for a big discussion on that line item. But going into the next page, I believe that is 13. At the top of the page, just looking at the tertiary plant improvements. This is a remainder of the project partnership with the Tule River Indian Tribe of California. The plant has been operational for 6 months. We ran into a punch list item with a warranty on the tank that required some sandblasting and repair work on the 12-month warranty. That has been completed, and the tank has been back operational and it's been serving the sports complex for about a month now after those repairs were completed. We are finalizing the permit process with the state to make the switch over at the casino. So we'll switch to Swivel L, and the casino will be full on tertiary water as well. We're just waiting for the proper authorities and acknowledgement between the agencies as we make those changes, because it's heavily permitted and regulated. Going into the,
I have a question. What's the timeline for that? To make that
as soon as I get a
transfer?
response from the State Water Board.
And what are
So
we, we're looking at a couple of weeks, a day, tomorrow?
Yes, as good as mine, because we put the communication in with them, and so as soon as they respond, we reached out to additional staff. There has been some turnover at the state. I mean, you've seen some of the budget crunches that have been going on, so there's been some turnover. So we're continuing to reach out, and as soon as we get communication back, we'll be making that effort, and council will be notified when that occurs.
Thank you.
We still have some remaining projects under the East Porterville water infrastructure. Just noting those, the well 34, which is we call the Aiken well, that was identified when we consolidated the Aiken water system over off of Main Street, Lincoln area there. That is also, again, much like the Del Oro and the Hope School, it's a grant-funded project, the remainder from the East Porterville consolidation. We have the casing in. We went out to bid. Council just approved award last week, and working through, or the last council meeting, working through the amendment, because we noted in that meeting that the bids came in higher, working with the state to amend the finance agreement to compensate for those higher bids. Going down into the next fiscal year, we've identified a trailer for our equipment for the water department. So we have an excavator. We need to get a trailer for that. We have been using one trailer for multiple pieces of equipment. It's become problematic, and so making those efforts to get a flatbed trailer. Water line improvements on Putnam and Fourth. So this just is a correlation to the projects there, addressing fire flow conditions and projects in the area. And so just the ongoing efforts on the conversion of our radio read meters. The city has been working on those for the last couple of years. Rather than going out and subbing out the conversion, we've been performing that in-house, and has been working very well. It's improved community communication and tracking for those communications with customers. And then the SCADA upgrade. So the SCADA stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. It's how staff monitors remotely all the operation of our wells, tanks, booster stations, storm drain pumps, and sewer lift stations. So this is the first phase of a conversion that is going to be timed with the new well equipping. And then, as you see below the equipping, we're looking at retrofitting older cabinets, so it'll phase that approach into our system. Going into the next page, page 14.
Summary.
Do we keep going?
Yeah, I think on the summary, right, and.
Right. On the next page, so we have a couple plans noted. And those are coming, will be coming to council for review. We've completed a draft master plan study, and that will be coming to council for that review, as mentioned, and environmental on that.
And then, Mr. Knight, on these next two pages are the master plan.
Right, this the
and not
total.
much- yeah,
Just want to mention
go
the total on that.
Apologies, go ahead.
Yeah, so noting that, and then the urban water management plan. So this is basically studies that go into the operation of our system for this page. So the urban water management plan is an update. The previous one was done in 2020. It's required every 5 years. So we'll be putting together a plan for establishing an update. And then again, integrated regional water management plan. We have some monies in here for slough, addressing the slough. And then the partnership with the JPA on the Tule River JPA. And that fund balance wraps up to about $31,681,000. Happy to answer any questions before I move on to any additional pages.
I wouldn't mind going back to page 12, just to talk about the treachery. I can never say that word
So
correct.
tertiary?
Treachery.
Tertiary. So it's going to come up again because we're going to talk about it in denitrification. And so this isn't it's going to be in two locations here. So the tertiary improvements is driven both in water and in wastewater. So the project out at the casino, the satellite plant, which produces, they refer to it as a 0.308 MGD, which is basically 308,000 gallons a day. We produce roughly between 4.5 and 5 million gallons a day. So we basically siphon off of our effluent going out to our reclamation area, a little over 300,000 gallons a day, and that is being treated and stored and provided currently to offset potable water supplies to our sports complex. So through the environmental process and the establishment of the relocation of the casino, that study took into account if the plant was created, we could offset potable supplies at the sports complex, and then we could offset potable supplies at the irrigation for the casino, and we could also create some surplus of potable water with offsetting as a dual plumb facility the flushing valves for the casino. So through that process, the agreement was established with the tribe, and it was a third, 2/3. So the city had 2/3 cost on that project, and the tribe will contribute a third of the cost of that project. And it's a little over $12 million. The project was bigger because we also incorporated a 200 acre-foot storm drain basin with this project as well. And we improved two sewer lift stations that would be impacted by the development out there in the area. So currently it is operational. We're offsetting those supplies. And then moving forward at the corporation yard, we are required by a Regional Water Quality Control Board to have a discharge requirement. So through that discharge requirement, we need to do denitrification to reduce our discharge of nitrates out to our reclamation area, which then contributes to what they refer to as our zone of contribution of contamination of nitrates. So the city has went through a process, and we've done studies, and we've presented those studies to the state. We currently provide offset supply.
I have a question on that, and I hate to ruin your flow here, but just trying to, because we're surrounded by the county, and the county is all on septic tanks, and so they're all putting nitrates in the ground. So how can they hold us to a standard that they don't hold our neighbors to?
So the evaluation of that was done based on the identified discharge area of our reclamation area. So that's how the zone of contribution was established. And so that's how we're held accountable. Now, we've had conversations in the past, and there's been discussion about areas wider than that or other areas that could be contiguous outside of the area of contribution. And there has been no enforcement on that at this time. So basically, the study provided a zone of contribution, and that's what the city has been obligated to respond to and manage. And so along with that management is putting a plan together to reduce additional discharge and contribution to any nitrates in that area. And so through that process, the next step would be to do denitrification. So the $60 million is essentially just an implementation of an MBR filter that will remove nitrates out of our wastewater discharge. So as a byproduct of making that investment with the denitrification, which is a requirement, and the city has filed for an exemption under a notice that we had received previously. We're 3 years under the exemption that we filed for.
Has the county applied for an exemption in that fashion at all?
I have no idea.
Gotcha. But they're held to the same standards we are, correct?
You know, I try to stay in my own business.
I hear. I just wonder how these rules are being implemented across the board, And if it's being heavily handed to the city of Porterville on the backs of our constituents, when we're looking at two projects, or excuse me, funding of $120 million on paper here, but probably with inflation, it's going to be a lot more.
I would say I don't want to try to compare everything apples to bananas and lemons here, but the county doesn't necessarily operate a water system or a sewer system, you know,
Okay.
so technically you have a lot of, what I would say is urban sprawl, and you have the septic tank issues, you have those type of things that occur. They're not operating a wastewater treatment plant, so to say. Now there's efforts to manage that and efforts to manage the impact of a regional like JPA, but it's not necessarily falling on the county. The county manages reporting and those type of things, but as far as the city held to a higher standard or a more stringent action is because we are technically collecting all the wastewater, treating the wastewater, and then discharging the wastewater. So
Thank you for that clarification.
Sorry, I had a little follow-up. On that, is there anything that, through grants or something else, that is like kind of an unfunded mandate in a way? Or is there a way that the state can help pay for this?
There's always a way. So there's a variety of ways. So there is some grant programs for design. There's some low interest loans, right? So you can go apply for a low interest loan. And then there is some partial grants for studies, but there's not a full complete grant that is going to give you the full price to implement that. And so that is going to be the challenge. So, you know, Morro Bay just went through their big conversion over there, and they went through several different grants, combining grants and going back to figure out ways to get more money, which I fully anticipate that's what we're going to do here. The first steps is what we've identified is an environmental process, some design process, and then that gives you the ability to go out and search for grants. And then that'll get us in a situation where we know where we're at, and then what other funding mechanisms do we have to entertain.
Well, it's just frustrating, like stuff with transportation, the state's requiring us to, but then they also kind of kick down funds for this. But this is something that was basically, for the most part, unfunded, but at least from the state.
So there's partial monies, but I don't know that you're going to get the full thing.
Michael, you said that we're 3 years into a 15-year exemption.
Correct.
On this process.
Correct.
If we start this process next year, the environmental and the design, what's the lifespan of that? If we spend this money and then this project doesn't get done for 10 years, are we still going to be able, are we going to lose that money?
So currently, we don't have any money to lose.
What's the life of the design? I mean, what if this thing gets put off because this is a big chunk and we're still in this exemption period?
So the environmental will be the environmental. So the investment in that, there is some sunset to that, and there may be some required updates, of course. And then if we get to a plan design, which is going to be an early stage plan design, probably a 30% type of plan to be able to go out and solicit funding. But the reality is you need to get a portion of it constructed relatively soon, because not only do you need to get it implemented, but you need to have a testing period. So technically, this needs to be done within the next 5 years. Is your buffer zone, if you're looking at that, you know, where you're going to move this money to. So in the next 5 years, you got to figure out how that denitrification is going to be in place, or potentially there may be an option to go back to the state and ask for a larger extension. I've never done that. I've not seen it be successful, but that's another option to go through a petition process to see if you could extend it, provide some explanation behind that. But essentially, if you don't do it and you show no effort towards it, you could find yourself in a compliance order on the operation of your wastewater treatment plant with a cease and desist.
So how does this, because this is in two places, right? You connected this, we have the tertiary, and then we also have,
Denitrification.
So how do they connect?
Page 17.
So it's a process. So the first phase of this, the denitrification, is just the first step in tertiary treatment. So just because you put in the denitrification doesn't mean you have tertiary water. So the next step to that is you would be putting in UV disinfection, chlorination, and then a portion of that is also going to require an upgrade to our headworks to be able to pump that water out to a processing area. So whether it becomes excess water that goes to our reclamation area, or as the city has seen through the capital improvement project list, we are putting in a secondary distribution system for recycled water to then distribute that water to our green spaces throughout the community to provide a second, higher, and better use of the water. Then again, conserving water, potable water, and using this tertiary water for irrigation purposes. And then if it goes to having excess water, you'll have opportunities for exchange rates for surface water, or you could look at amending cropping plans within our reclamation area and changing from fodder crops to potentially a marketable crop out there on land the city already owns. So there's a variation of what the potential will be in the city. In reality, it all comes down to how the city manages the resource once you create the resource and how you apply it to your sustainability moving forward, which kind of all comes back and aligns to Sigma as well.
Michael, you've done a great job of being
Masterful.
innovative on this. And so we're leading in this area, right?
Absolutely.
Is there anybody else doing this?
So currently, you have some exchange rates going. Visalia has a tertiary plant. They've got some great projects in the works where they're looking at how to integrate hydrogen there as well. So they're already doing exchange rates in Visalia. We are the first in the area to have a dual plumb facility, so that's where we've kind of got ahead of that. I think once the projects are implemented and having access to the tertiary water, the value isn't looking at an exchange rate for our reclamation area. The value is being able to save potable water and offset towards irrigation, reducing the requirements on irrigation and being able to require more, so therefore giving you greener parks for your community, greener landscapes for the roadways, whether it be Caltrans or whether it be city roadways and landscapes, and then being able to continue to grow our sports complex for the community. So it's going to compound and come back, and then you're going to be able to still have additional water because of saving the potable water for the development and continued expansion of the city of Porterville.
Yeah, I love that you've covered all those bases. What's the back of the envelope return on investment? Is this a 20-year, 30-year ROI on that?
You're talking a $200 million project.
So wrapping it all up together, depending on the timeline, you're right around $160 million. That was the number that was evaluated back at the implementation or the feasibility study of recycled water. We don't have an updated number, and that's what we're hoping to get. I mean, the environmental on the draft master plan is nearing completion, and it'll be coming to council. Staff is continuing to do some comparisons on the draft master plan, just making sure we didn't miss anything from the update, because we consolidated instead of having these huge plans independently. We've integrated them, given the simplicity of it. But really, it's kind of hard to put a number on it. If you go to a point where, which I appreciate the comment, we have planned for the future. We have, recharged water. We have purchased water shares. We're implementing recycled water for sustainability. But depending if you don't do that and you implement this project, this is allowing you to continue to grow and be a productive community. You don't do that and you run into, moratoriums on development. You run into state implemented mandates on discharge or compliance orders that impact your system. So it's hard to put a number on it.
Yeah.
Sitting at a council meeting. But if you have to turn away a development of 250 homes, what's that worth to the city in taxpayers and growth in our community, to our school districts, to our employers? What does that look like?
I understand. I just still have one more question that's on capacity, because, looking at the general plan, 2030, we're supposed to have 130,000 people in Porterville. And so capacity comes into mind. We talk about all of this treatment. I mean, if we're still only doing 5 million gallons per day, is this built to handle how much? What's the capacity on this?
The design of it is built to meet the capacity of our plant.
Of the
The
plan?
general plan.
So, no, of the plant.
Of the
So
plant.
just the existing plant. So
8 million.
as you know, so our discharge, our plant is rated at 8 million, and it would be phased to what is the budget look like, right? So maybe right now you have a plant that's installed at 5 million because that's what we are. You need a buffer, right? So you have to have that percentage buffer for peaks and demands, and so you have max day use, average day demand, and so you'll have to meet that. And we're going to have to evaluate our own wastewater treatment plant. Now, once we start getting to 6, 7, that's going to require some upgrades at the plant. So it's all expandable. It's all, most of these things are packaged plants. So you're extending some cartridges, you're upgrading pumps. It's a continued investment on that.
I'm just worried that we're going to build something that we don't need. And I understand the necessity, but, when you look at the projects, if you're saying it's 160 million now, by the time we get there, it's going to be 400 million, the way projects are going these days. So I'm just trying to understand it better, because there's a risk factor here of going early. Is there an advantage after we see the data next year and reviewing it and maybe reviewing the timelines? And that's what I'm driving at, I think, in the conversation. So you're not going to have it all done by next week, Mike, so just trying to pick your brain.
100% is going to be council's decision.
Well, and you made a comment about a cease and desist if we don't meet the 15-year deadline, or we're not going forward with this project. What does that look like? They're going to come in and say we can't use our sewage plant in the city of Porterville anymore?
Potentially, yes.
I have a hard time believing the state is going to come to a city and tell us we can't flush our toilets, we can't take showers.
I'm not going to challenge them, but I mean, like I said, it's happened. And so it may not mean that the plant is shut down and they kill the power to it, but there's fines associated. There's, it's happened.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Knight. I hope we continue to work with you, because you are masterful in this, and your knowledge and depth and knowledge on this arena here in water and sewage is, I don't know anybody else that's like you. So thank you for that, Mr. Knight. Are there any other questions from the council?
Yeah, I have few questions. I know this is going to be grants and stuff, but is there a potential with everything that's going on if we go along with this in the future, is there a possibility that the sewer rates will go up?
Well, there's always a possibility for the sewer rates to go up. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, can I help you rephrase your question? If we add the tree plant, will we have to do a rate increase on sewage?
Depends on the financing mechanism.
That's what I'm saying.
And so I don't say that, because everybody will hang on to your clickbait on that. So the process behind that
I'm not trying
is twofold. So when you say implement the tertiary plant, depending on what phase that goes in, there's a financing component to that. So what grants are available, right? So what does a low interest loan look like from the state? Or what does a bonding issue look like on sewer revenues? So there's ways to get that. The reality of putting $60 million on the ratepayer, that's absolutely not possible. So the only way to do that is to mitigate how you fund that. And that is going for low interest loans, grant programs, going to our legislators that support water infrastructure in the area and petitioning them for that money. And then ultimately, if those things don't pan out, or we get a combination of partial funds, then you're only going to have to go out and look for a bond for, a portion of that, half that. What does that look like? But that's not the driver. The reality is you can't put $60 million on a ratepayer.
Well, and we just raised the rates on sewage last year, right? And it's a 5-year process, so the rates will continue going up over the next 3 to 4 years.
Correct.
Give or take. So it's going to be interesting coming forward, and I appreciate the transparency and us being able to have this conversation. I know it's getting late, but I do appreciate it. Are there any other questions for
Thank you, Mr.
Director
Knight.
Knight or Assistant City Manager Knight as we go forward? Not seeing any, let's continue on.
Well, and I think we've talked about pretty much the major projects for wastewater treatment facility. There are a couple of notable repairs for Digester 1 and Digester 4, and if it's okay with the council, we'll move into the other sections of the capital improvement.
Yes, I'm good. If Mr. Knight, did we cover it all, sir?
Yeah, you got it. So you basically, we've already talked enough about denitrification, and you got some digester repairs. Everything else is looking good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Mr. Knight. The next section, starting on page 19, is our community development capital improvement projects. We have currently ongoing the active transportation plan, so that's continuing to be funded in this year. The update to our circulation element is planned for this fiscal year. In 2 years, Vice Mayor, you mentioned the general plan that is through 2030. We're targeting 27, 28 to update our general plan for the next 20 years, potentially for till 2050. It's currently unfunded because normally this type of project would come out of the general fund. I didn't know if you had a comment.
I just would make a comment, and we're having this serious conversation about how to spend $180 million. I think if we have a general fund or a general plan that has a better idea where we're going, it'll help us in those conversations. And this is probably needs to be moved forward at least a year. And we got to figure out how to do this sooner rather than later, because we got to see how it fits with the trajectory of what we're about to do.
And that's something that is unfunded, and they're projected $1 million, right?
That's correct, and likely out of the general fund.
I'm just concerned because the current master plan the trajectory is not matching the last 5 years, and it's going to go off the rails more. And so if we have a better idea where we are, then we'll have a better idea where we need to go.
Very good. If there's no other questions on community development, we'll now turn our attention to Parks and Leisure, and I'll turn the time over to Mr. Moore. He's got some exciting projects that he wants to highlight.
I'll be happy to. Thank you, Mr. Tree, Council. I'll just start with down at the community center and park. If you've driven by Henderson lately, you see construction has begun on that. You'll see in the CIP a list of design, which obviously is complete, and then it has the breakdown of construction. This will carry over into the following fiscal year as well. Down at the bottom of page 20, the library, that's something that will need to be discussed at some point to get some direction on the library. That's something that has come before council a couple times, and we'll continue to bring that forward as far as we'll just be needing to get some direction on the future of the library.
Maybe, Mr. Moore, on that, the previous council priority was to move forward with the design portion, which staff did, and then it's currently in a holding period while we wait for the settlement to work through its course, and then also direction from council how to best to proceed.
Yeah, and I think we're all kind of in agreement to figure out what our dollar amount is going to be to what kind of building we're going to build. It just helps us make an informed decision.
I know that has been council's direction, and we're still waiting on that settlement. So as soon as we get that number, we'll be bringing that forward.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Let's
Donnie, I know you're also in charge of facilities. Any work on the AC for City Hall? We're burning it.
Yes, that 28-29 year is looking a little far off as far as the temperature tonight. So the current Medisys upgrades are taking place in City Hall. I do not see the thermostats in this room, and this should have been a priority, so I already have an email for tomorrow morning to get on that. So far so good as far as the improvements that have been made, but obviously I apologize for them not getting to this important area of the building. So that will be
To be fair, the access area that they have to get into to be able to put the appropriate controller updates in is itty bitty. So they're having to accommodate that, and it's been a little bit more difficult than they anticipated. So that's part of it.
Maybe Sarah, I know there's some ADA improvements planned, not to take the highlights away from Donnie, but this is a project that you've been working on for ADA improvements for City Hall that are finally being planned for this fiscal year. Do you want to talk about those?
Yes, so we have a project that's about 95% of design, and what I mean by that, it's under permit review. We're finalizing that, and then waiting for the budget to be approved to move forward. And that is to bring all of our public counters into compliance, to address some issues with our flooring in the public hallways, and like the front entrance over here near our permit counter, the floor is peeling, so we're going to put a nice floor all throughout those public areas, a hard floor that's easier to clean and disinfect, and those things that has a better lifespan than the carpet. And then the ramp out here that has the awkward steps will become a solid ramp for compliance and to make it a little safer when transversing that area. Also, our bathrooms down this hallway right here will be brought into compliance with ADA, and then we have some adjustments in our staff bathrooms as well that need for compliance, and then some counter issues in our meeting rooms as well for the ADA compliance. So we're pretty much ready to move with that pending authorization.
Thank you, Ms. Weaver.
And apologize. I also just want to highlight, and Sarah, if you can, and maybe even Javier step in, the continued funding towards ADA improvements at facilities through our, right up at the top, it's titled ADA Transition Plan. Just want to highlight the continued funding.
Yeah, to sort of speak on that, there were, was it a few months ago? Shoot, it seems forever ago, sorry. We had an outreach meeting with the community. We did have a good number of attendants. We are putting the final touches on that transition plan through our consultant. And in order to achieve compliance with the deficiencies that exist throughout the city, that's another big price tag that we haven't even talked about. And it'll be up to council how much they would want to dedicate to attacking those. Some of it we're already kind of doing through our road rehabilitation projects, building projects that, like for instance, the one Sarah just described, where it's a remodel and then taking advantage to bring in little things that we can bring into compliance. And you know, so the facilities, they're not going to be, how would I say, they're going to have some cost, but the biggest cost ultimately is in the public right-of-way, curb ramps and sidewalks, just because all of that is expensive.
Well, and I'll share too, with the report, the draft report, we did apply some of the things that they found to our ongoing projects. So like the Santa Fe Byway, the rehabilitation and beautification project, they had walked that facility prior. So we took their findings and applied it to the upgrade to help get ahead of those things while it was under construction. So we've been proactively taking the information that we have to try to apply it as we're in those areas as well, so.
Yeah, that's outstanding, because the more we can do in the interim, then the more we get done with the best amount of dollars. So thank you very much for that report.
Yeah, thanks, and sorry for the delay. I didn't want to extend, but it's important for the public and both the council to know that, you know, we have projects planned and continued projects. It comes up from time to time about sidewalk improvements or ADA improvements. So I just wanted to pause to make sure and reinforce the work that's being done in this area.
Thank you for that transparency.
Mr. Moore, continue.
All right. Looking at the multi-sport field improvements, the Santa Fe Sportsplex, a very exciting upcoming project. the $2.5 million that we received from the National Park Service. And then there will be some additional funding for that. That's the 10 arena soccer fields, the 2 multi-sport surface courts, 8 pickleball courts, and an amphitheater. So that's all going to be going in just to the south of the South County Justice Center. So that will be a regional facility. So that's how we receive that money. There's not another 10-field arena soccer field complex in the valley. I'm not even sure how many there are in the state. So
That's a really exciting project, and now I'm going to put maybe our city manager or yourself on the spot. It shows that we're breaking ground in 25, 26. Is that reality?
So the master plan, I'm starting at the top of that one, the master plan and the layout. That one did get basically completed with, that was in conjunction with the library that was supposed to be part of that parcel, I guess, if you will, that area. So that was part of that design. Next up is the design for that specific sportsplex. That should be getting underway here anytime. So I can safely say the design will take place in 25, 26. Construction, I'm not going to say for sure that will take place in 25, 26. I'm not sure if Ms. Weaver has any other input on that.
There's a good shot for authorization to bid in 25, 26. So starting the process, which is why it's identified here, and then it'd probably be a 6 to 8 month build with all the infrastructure that has to go in, and then they bring in the pre-manufactured fields.
Yeah.
That's the good news about those those arenas are almost like a drop-in-place kind of thing. They're very quick as far as up. And then the pickleball courts don't take a whole lot as well. So just getting design and everything on that. But
Fernando has a copy of the master plan layout that he can pop up if you'd like to see it.
No, we don't got to do that. We'll
Okay.
just keep rolling. Thank you.
Fernando, can you send that to my email?
So I don't know if we can actually send the designs out because they're proprietary.
Oh, I
to
see.
that-
Okay.
To that, but
I think there's some,
So the only way we can see them is today?
I
there's
have-
going to be an update coming in future council meetings regarding this. We could share, we'll be happy to share.
Is that
it there.
okay, Councilman Rivas,
Sounds
or you
good.
want to
Yes,
say it right
no,
now?
that's fine. Let's move on.
Okay. Carry on, Mr. Moore.
all right, let's see, down at the bottom of that page, the sports complex improvements. Just wanted to highlight the master plan there at the top. That's something that QK has been working on, and the draft is just about basically complete on that as far as the draft goes. And then in conjunction with that, the baseball field designs, which was something that was a council priority, and has changed from 1 baseball field to 2 baseball fields. And that design is, the draft design of that is pretty much hot off the press as well, pretty close to being complete. So I believe if you wanted to take a quick glance at that, I believe we possibly have that queued up as well. It'll just take a second if you want to look at that.
It's that's an exciting map if you want us to display that real quickly. Councilman Green, would you like to see the updated?
Yeah, I'd love to, because I was just curious, I'd like to see how the layout's going to be for like softball, Little League.
Yeah, so it's an initial concept, and we literally just received it and reviewed it, but we have it ready to look at, and we'll actually be doing a full presentation on it next month to get better feedback, but I think it is exciting to look at, so.
I'm ready. Lay it on me.
give me one moment. I'm going to go ahead and.
Drum roll, please. So this will include the 2 baseball fields on the southeast portion of the sports complex, and then it shows 2 additional softball fields to complete that, what would be 4 softball fields.
Which one are we looking at?
It'd be the master plan for the
Got a
sports
problem there, Fernando?
complex.
What's going on, buddy?
I'm making sure that, because we can't show it on stream.
Oh,
Make sure it doesn't get.
okay. I'm just kidding you anyway.
There we go.
So you can see at the
at that.
bottom right there, those are the 2 proposed baseball fields.
Yeah.
Full size, those would be 300 feet down the left field, right field line, 400 feet pretty much to center field. So Councilman Green could probably still take one deep over center field, I'm guessing. Over there on the top left, if you hang a slider, I guess you could still take it over.
Wow.
The top left, you have the 2 softball fields there, so that completes the fourplex of the softball fields potentially, which would enable tournament play, that sort of thing. You can see there's 2 different color tones of soccer fields as well, so there's some larger size soccer fields as well as some smaller ones showed in there, in addition to some additional sand volleyball courts. These are all things that were public input as far as when we had a lot of public input regarding the Parks Master Plan. This was part of that. So
We also have,
I'm sorry,
go ahead, sir, go ahead.
where the old existing, showing here, the existing softball field, what's gonna be done with those, Donnie? They're gonna be, is there gonna be 4 fields?
yeah, so there's 2 existing ones which would be on the west there. Those 2 would remain, and then the darker colored 2 on the east side right there would complete those 4.
Got it.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
that looks pretty good. And these are regulation fields down here, right?
correct.
Okay.
Wow.
And we would make those adjustable base pegs as well, so you could play 60, 70, or 90. You could do 50, 70, potential portable mounds, things like that.
It's an exciting map looking at it. I'm interested to see with the partnership with TCAC. I've had conversations with Ted and creating some trails that may be able to connect to the fairgrounds and also possibly the casino in collaboration with the tribe. So exciting stuff, really cool to see. It's too bad the public can't see it, but here in a month, they may be able to. So good stuff.
Yeah.
right.
And then, I know, not to change the subject, but since we're on this diagram, you see the OHV park.
I was just gonna mention that.
We kind of hopped over that, but that's another item that staff is seeking council direction on what we want to do with the existing OHV park. It's currently shut down with the development of the casino, but we still own it, to be clear, and
I wouldn't mind having that on for like closed session next council meeting.
okay. Any other comments or
No, well, I love the outlay, I love the plan. There's only one thing, and I'm not trying to take nothing away from this project, but I don't see any horseshoe pits.
That's because you have cornhole nowadays.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's the new,
That-
that's the new
Maybe
wave,
we
right?
can, maybe in the future, find like 2 horseshoe pits or something. I mean, that's pretty exciting.
So the projects included here are those that are identified in the adopted Parks Master Plan.
Okay.
So that's why the ones that are here, and that was not one that was identified in the
Okay.
adopted Parks Master
I'm
Plan.
just curious.
That's a good idea.
So
That's
it's,
a- yeah,
there's
that's a
potential
neat-
for it, but
Appreciate
we'd have to
that.
fund it separately from any parks fees.
I understand that, but maybe in the future. All right, thank you.
I have a brief, I was trying to tie it into one of the conversations, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. But, so the library, I believe it's part of Measure I, that funding goes to public safety, roads, and part of it was library. And my understanding is that it wasn't kind of always allocated the funding that initially was set up for. I think it was roughly 15%. But my understanding is it's always been kind of never have utilized, or the fundings have never been to that 15%. It's always been 10, 11%. So looking back at some of the library funds, I don't know if this council would give direction or to, since the inception of Measure I, had 15% been allocated, whether the department used it all or not, there would be a little bit of, I mean, maybe a couple $1 million or a few $1 million that would help go towards that fund or for the library. And so I didn't know going forward, I mean, I don't know if, obviously we still have to wait for some feedback on stuff that's going on with funding grants and some insurance and all that. But I didn't know if that would help as far as what we're looking at in the next 2 or 3 years. I know this is a priority because we have a temporary library and we're spending money for rent and all that. But another side note to that is the Heritage Center, we swapped properties with PUSD, and we still don't actually have the Prospect property. But they've been using it since, like, PSD has been using it since day one. And
Like 10 years?
for quite a while. And we're still not kind of made whole yet. And so I don't know where we are with the negotiations with them to finally for them to release that. Because I'm thinking if we'd been had that property not been released and we're charging them rent, that's another, there's more money that's just being lost because we're trying to be good partners, but it seems like we're always getting the short end of the stick. And so I didn't know where we might be with that.
The heritage funds, when we sell that property?
Well, we did a kind of a swap of property, but we have never really do anything with the Prospect property because it's still not ours, even though the Heritage Center, they're utilizing it since pretty much day one. But we have been unable to
Well, we're supposed to actually have a profit on selling that, right? But it's going to help fund the Santa Fe.
Yeah, so there's some funding tied in, and Claudia is eager to speak to that because it deals with CBDG.
Perfect.
Yeah, and to your point, yes, it has been long overdue. I spoke to the school district today, and there's a commitment to bring that agreement and the final transaction to the city council for consideration next month.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
I can just add a little bit on the funding. So it was Section 108 loan that we had gotten. So the proceeds of it have to be used again for a CDBG eligible activity. So the sports center, because that's going to be used, and the qualifying service area is also low to moderate income, it can be used there. And so that was what was written into the plan, and HUD approved it. So that's what we will be using on, but it's a little bit over $1 million that will be dedicated to that. And that's kind of included in the budget for the capital improvements for Donnie's section. He just didn't cover CDBG, but yeah, but it's factored in there to be able to ensure that we're meeting still HUD requirements. 'Cause even if we sell it, the intent of the use is still there. So,
Thank you, Director Calderon. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, just given how we're trying to find dollars where we can, that was just one that's kind of been sitting out there for a while, and I just wasn't sure where we are. So glad to hear that conversation was had.
Yeah, really good point, Councilman Beltran.
Okay. I know it's getting late. We got 4 pages left. Do you guys want to power through, or do you need a recess?
Let's go. Let's go.
Wonderful.
All right, Donnie, wrap it up on your section. There's some good projects, though, so not so quick.
I think that takes us to probably 22, I believe. In 22, I'll just highlight the Veterans Park Trail. That's phase 2. That'll be from the skate park area, and that'll head south, essentially on that DG path on a kind of parallel to Newcomb, heading down towards Station 72, and then it goes to the east along adjacent to Morton, essentially, and that all that will be concrete, solar lighted. So right now you'll just see like a dirt / DG path around that whole park. So this will complete that area with some other amenities, benches and things like that. And that project will be getting underway soon and will be complete this fiscal year as well. So super exciting addition that will be heavily used. Make it a lot safer around that park and keep people away from the busy streets and more towards the inner part, of the park, and it'll be lit, so it'll be be great.
Donnie, I know you mentioned restrooms and some other amenities, but can you also elaborate a little bit more on some of the other planned amenities? The last project on the
Yeah,
street?
so that would be essentially a phase 3, which would be more into the 26-27. That would include potentially like another restroom, playground, a slough crossing about halfway down the trail there along Morton, and some additional parking down there near the corner of Newcomb and Morton as well. So maybe even a splash pad thrown in there too by the playground.
So this ties to my request for like the battleship theme playground at Veterans Park with the splash pad.
That could be that playground that's listed there, correct?
The next question would be, what are we going to name the battleship or the ship?
Yeah.
Somebody said the SS Minnow, but I didn't like it.
I'm looking at Michael Knight's face, and I could see what he wants. So
He has some ideas.
yeah. It's exciting. I was envisioning that we would, and I also think it'll be a little more achievable as far as cost, but thinking just redoing the park at Henderson and Newcomb, and not going forward with a pedestrian bridge and parking and everything it's going to take to install a park of that complexity. Instead, doing Veterans Park, where we already have, at Henderson and Newcomb, that playground there, upgrading it to a new playground and adding a splash park feature next to it. We already have the parking. It's a hot spot, a lot of traffic. I think that it would really highlight Veterans Park there on the corner. That's my thought on it, especially with the skate park and all that's going on there. I don't know if this is the right time to be giving direction in that sense. I'm not asking for a motion or anything, but that's my input on that.
Well, Mayor, kind of in line with potentially looking at the existing site is the discussion that we've had with Mr. Knight, and he explained a little bit about a plan, potentially a tank in that area. We already have infrastructure, booster pumps that would support a water tank.
Are you talking down on Morton?
Yeah.
Morton and Newcomb?
Correct.
Gotcha.
And so shifting the location to the Henderson side kind of supports some planned improvements. If your desire is to have the playground upgraded on the Henderson side, that will allow us to move forward with the tank, planning for the tank on the Morton side.
Gotcha. Okay. I think that's something we could discuss in the future as it comes, but go ahead and continue on, Mr. Moore.
I think we've reached the conclusion. I just want to highlight the 30 million that is being invested in parks and sports park and sportsplex, the library, potentially the library and other activities, just the amount of exciting projects being invested for the community's benefit. Really exciting.
Yes, thank you. And great job to Parks and Leisure.
We're going to shift our attention to this side of the room, and I'm going to turn the time over to Chief Costello to talk about his projects for the police department.
Yeah, good evening. The first one is the HVAC system at the PD. Obviously, council's aware of that and voted a month or so back on upgrading and replacing that system. I can defer to Ms. Weaver if she wants to explain the process and that leading up to that time frame for that project. Or not.
I think we're good. We're feeling the effects of HVAC right now, so continue on, sir.
Centennial Plaza, PD office, and city conference room. That was also a project that council took a vote on a few months back. That project looks like it'll be moving forward as our office space is at a premium and our PD is out of office space. We already currently have detectives at Centennial Plaza. This will just create additional room for additional detectives and office space for our personnel. EOC upgrade. EOC Emergency Operations Center is located at the PD. Obviously, the purpose of the EOC is for critical incidents such as natural disasters, critical incidents such as active shooters or large-scale incidents that both police and fire and city leadership is involved in. It's centrally located at our police department. Obviously, with some of the projects that we had in the past with the administrative building, that would included the EOC, different direction on that. So the need is for technological enhancements for our EOC center to operate. The most recent time where there was a sustained incident was the flood. We were there for a very long time, 24/7. We found several needs during that incident that needed to be addressed. They are being addressed. We've already started that with our current budget over the last couple of years since the flood, such as video wall display systems with our high-resolution TVs and computers with live camera feeds and maps and stuff that we're able to broadcast over those upgrades. But we're looking at upgrading computer hardware, replacing workstations with high-speed computer capabilities to run GIS and CAD, different tracking softwares, not just for the city, but when an incident like that occurs where it's multi-jurisdictional. Brian and I were all over the county during that incident, and so was both of these guys. We need that integration with the county, the state, and all our surrounding partners to work together in those critical incidents. So in the incident management platform, those are some of the software and technology upgrades that we're going to need for that system. I know it's earmarked for $500,000, but usually for the systems and the upgrades that we're looking at, estimated cost is anywhere between $250 and $500, but we didn't want to leave ourselves short. So we are looking at that for this fiscal year. And the generator, that is out of my purview. Yeah. So I would I know Mike and I have worked many years on this project, and it keeps getting pushed. So if you don't mind, sir, you don't have.
We're going to make it happen for you this year, Chief.
Absolutely. I can just provide some explanation on that. So initially, all things are not simple. So we came to a point where that piece of equipment was due for replacement in our equipment replacement process, and ran into some challenges. So the existing space has space constraints. The new equipment that goes in there doesn't require separate fuel tanks, and the way it's configured, it's combined in close proximity to an Edison transformer. So essentially the area and the parts that need to go in it have changed, and we need to demo that out and put a bigger unit in. So that changes the footprint. And then the challenges that we went through for that replacement is the age of PD as far as the facility itself, not the people working there, but the age of the building requires some upgrades to the electrical panel. So going from the cost of just replacement of the unit has now grown to upgrading the switchgear, the master panel, and then the generator as well. So it has got shifted down. I think with some of the projects going on there, we've evaluated the conditions within the parking lot, some free space that can be taken up, and then we're looking at options before taking up that precious real estate behind the fence of how it could work with the well lot adjacent to the property. So that's an evaluation. What does it look like to the cost of the project with maintaining PD's access to the facility?
So there may be more costs coming forward. Is the generator that's there now down in the basement?
No, it's in the parking lot.
It is in the parking lot.
A brick enclosure, so that's part of the issue.
Gotcha.
What's the capacity? Is like 30 kilowatt?
Yeah, I'm not for sure. I don't want to misspeak, but it's a large unit, similar to that size, yeah.
Well, thanks, Chief. I know you talked about the projects planned for this year, and there was some exciting projects planned for next year, and one of them you actually moved to next year, but maybe you get support from the council to move it up. But do you want to talk about the planned upgrades to the communication system?
Yeah, absolutely. So the emergency communication center, the repeater radio upgrades, digital programming, and the encryption. So some of this emergency equipment is end of life. Some are to be compliant by the Department of Justice by 2028. And like the city manager was saying, originally this was on the 25-26 budget. I looked at our current city fiscal situation, the exact potential end of life for some of these platforms. We also looked at if we were currently compliant with DOJ, which we are, and that's how we broadcast our driver's license or wants. It's the information sharing that people can hear if they're listening to the scanner. So some of this is going to be required to go to encryption. Encryption itself is for our size agency to do our internal radios, and all our equipment is probably going to be, and that's included in the 1.2, is going to be around 400,000. So it's a big chunk of that. But after considering all these factors and looking at the overall budget, not just mine, but the cities, we decided to push it to the 26-27, taking into consideration that if one of these systems or a repeater needs a repair, that we will have to come to council for an emergency repair item. So that's one of the big reasons was we were looking at, you know, the budget overall and just trying to be fiscally responsible with that size of a project for this year.
Thank you, Chief Costello. Moving on.
Moving on to fire, and I'll turn the time over to Chief Cogburn.
Yes, thank you. Starting with the fire station remodels, the first item for 25-26. That is the Station 71 remodel along with the EOC remodel that will be on the existing former library site, and Station 72 remodel. Funding is from the $10 million that we received from the Office of Emergency Services, which will also go to the construction of the 71 remodel. Moving down to Fire Station 72, this is split over 2 budget years with $3.1 million on fiscal year 25-26 and 1.3 on 26-27, as well as the construction project management cost. Is that what that is, Sarah, on the one below that? Contingency plan?
Contingency costs and construction management costs, yes.
So split over 2 years, $450,000 for each year. And these last 2 items that we have are the engine replacements.
Just for
Yes.
the community, Station 71's next door to City Hall, Station 72 is Newcomb, and just continue forward, just so people kind of, because they don't know what station is what.
Absolutely. Would you like me to dive into the sequence of the projects and why we're doing it 72 first versus 71?
Sure. Yeah, I don't mind that.
Yeah, so Station
We're already late.
72 is located on Newcomb. The sequence of starting with Station 72 is to help accommodate the remodel of Station 71 with the additional bedrooms, along with the remodel that we did to our training grounds. This helps facilitate that movement on a larger project like 71. So that is why we've chosen to go with Station 72 first. And you're correct, Station 71 is located next to City Hall, and the former library site will be the site of our next EOC.
Thank you.
And then the final 3 items we have are the replacement of engine 2194 and our new Type 1 engine, with the funding coming from the remaining funding coming from our equipment replacement fund. And then $80,000 for the vehicle preemptive response, which essentially allows us to control the intersections in the arterials and different areas around the city which means safer Code 3 response by being able to control those intersections.
Thank you, Chief Cogburn.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll shift our attention to the Transportation Department, and up first is the airport. Just a couple of notable projects planned for this fiscal year. At the top of the page is our airfield electrical improvements, partially funded from the FAA and the Caltrans Division of Aeronautics with a small local match that will improve the lighting around the airfield. This year, we're also going to be addressing our fuel island and the requirement to have a secondary containment system in place because of our above ground piping. That project actually needs to be completed before the end of this calendar year, or we'll have some challenges with the water board and the county for being out of compliance. And then the rehabilitation of the taxiway, that's actually just leftover funding for this project that will draw down this fiscal year, because that project is nearly complete. I would say 98% complete. But that we do identify all funding sources in the capital improvement plan. Future years, we have a lounge for the pilots and the extension or shift of the runway. And then those are big projects. The big project for the runway extension and also the runway rehabilitation that's needed. Just like streets, we need to rehabilitate the runway due to the weight of the planes and the activity happening out there. Any questions on the airport capital projects? All right, moving on to transit. All of these projects for transit are carryover from the prior fiscal year. Again, it comes down to timing of events. At the top of this page is our purchase of the 9 transit buses. It's come up several times in regards to the painting or the wrap of these buses, and just want to note that those costs are included in the grant for the purchase of the buses. It was mentioned earlier about the planned new maintenance facility. That's a $15 million project that we're working on. We're at 60% design completion and hoping to start construction early next year, at the same time that Edison and the city is constructing the city's first microgrid in the same area. So we're hoping that the microgrid will partially support the maintenance facility, but the priority of the microgrid is to support and provide emergency power for the wastewater treatment facility. The city was awarded that project with Edison about five years ago, and so we're excited to see both of those projects coming forward. You've already given approval in the prior fiscal year to move forward with facility improvements, about $450,000 of various improvements at the transit center, our corporation yard in the form of gates and other security upgrades, to facility improvements at the transit center, such as the lobby, adding additional security inside the lobby, the kiosk that has been damaged, repair of the clock at the transit center, new furniture. It's all part of the effort to renovate the transit center that was built over 20 years ago. The new bus stop signs are in production right now and will be delivered in a couple months. Our new shelters are in production right now and going to be delivered before the end of the fiscal year as well. So a lot of improvements, a lot of investment is being made in transit that was approved last fiscal year and just carrying forward into this fiscal year. Any questions on transit?
Keep rolling.
Right on. Well, we've made it to the last page. And this is kind of our miscellaneous page, from software improvements such as online permitting, accounting software upgrades for technology. We also are investing in our transfer center out at our corporation yard. That's for the recycling and green waste that we collect. We bring all of that material to our corporation yard and then transfer it to a contractor that will hauls it off-site. And so there's planned improvements for the transfer center, such as a concrete pad for the green waste, cover for the recycling material, and then also we're going to be installing a scale so that we can weigh the material instead of relying on the contractor to provide the weights. But also notably under the refuse section is the purchase of a new street sweeper, adding to the fleet to support those efforts. Go ahead, Mr. Knight. Sure, if you'd like some.
Just as we spoke with council previously, so under the last rate study, it was identified to increase the sweeping throughout the city. Given the time, the implementation of the rate study, we were a partial year, now we're through the full year of the rate study. We're looking at that, getting that piece of equipment in. So once we get that in, then we'll be coming back to council, or staff will be coming back to council to seek that authorization for staffing that piece of equipment. Essentially, it'll also provide us some redundancy in the meantime until we can get that position filled. So it was approved, and council had shared in the interest of not only having it, but increasing the coverage of the city. So we sweep the whole city once every month. That would provide us to sweep the whole city twice every month.
Thank you for that, Mr. Knight.
Outstanding.
Yeah. I remember actually really pushing on it, so I do appreciate that. Thank you.
And last but not least, we'll end with a previous council's priority for the last couple years is to have welcome signs as you're entering in the city limits. We're actually piggybacking with Caltrans to support us in this effort, but the goal would be to have welcome signs at the overpass on 190 and then also at Westfield.
Well, I just, the only statement I'd have on that is if we're using our Measure R funds to collaborate with Caltrans, I hope that we get an opportunity to be part of the vision of what the signs look like. And I think Caltrans is a good partner and will do so in that fashion.
Well, Mayor and council members, that brings us to the conclusion of walking both the public and the council through the planned $152 million worth of projects that staff is proposing. Typically, in previous council, council would provide some direction on what is the priority. Sometimes it's a couple projects. Last year there was about 10 projects, and those projects are moving forward. Like I explained earlier, in 2023, the council established a set of projects, and in 2024, they essentially said continue on with those projects. But this is the time, if you desire to provide further direction, we can get direction at another council meeting if you like. I know with the AC not working,
I'm already hot and bothered, so we're committed, right? And before you go, Vice Mayor, one thing I'd like to state is thank you for the presentation tonight from all of you. I know this was a long meeting. The air conditioner isn't working, so it's hot as well, but this has never been done in this fashion, where we went through every project that's going on in the city, and we laid it out very transparent-like. And so any constituent of Porterville can go and look and see what we are doing for them to provide services here in the city. So thank you to staff for delivering on this. As far as my priorities, I've kind of voiced them tonight. One, thank you for the street sweeper. It's great to hear that that's coming forward. I wasn't exactly aware of that, so that's great news. As far as the park, I kind of laid out my vision on what I would like to see. It's actually something I laid out in my mission statement as a reach goal. And it's exciting to see that you guys are already going forward with, in that direction to try to complete that goal. I still remain focused on 3 arenas, and that is cut and regulation, continuing to fund our roads, fix our roads here in the city, which I believe we're putting around $50 million towards that this next fiscal year, and then public safety. Police officers are doing a great job, Parks and Leisures with the homeless abatement crew. The town is the best it's looked in my adult life. And that's all because of you guys. So thank you for that and delivering in that fashion. I'll pass it off. Councilman Rivas, do you have any comments?
Yes, I echo those sentiments, Mr. Mayor, and I'm not going to take too much of your guys' time. I appreciate everything that you guys have done, and are still doing, and I just have 4. We talked about them already. The Union Avenue, the road improvements, excellent way to go on the amount of mileage that we're doing per year. We touched on the sports complex improvements. That is great. And also, I want to focus on the library. I want to move forward on that one. But we just still need to wait on the budget on that, on the insurance. So, but those are my 4 main topics that I want to see go through fruition. But continue to do what you guys are doing with the projects that you're that are online now. So, but those are my 4. I also want to echo on the deregulation of the no more taxes. But we need to figure out something about this nitrate plantation get more information on that. Because it seems like we're going to need to know more information, because if not, then we're going to be paying a hefty fine from the state. And I've seen it done on an institutional level, because that's state on state, but on the city, they've imposed, and they come down hard on that kind of stuff. So, but on that, I want to end that with those statements on those 4 that I want to focus on my improved priorities. So with that, Mayor, I turn it back to you.
Councilman Green?
Yeah. Yeah, the library, I think we've talked about when we were doing our pre-op for the meeting tonight, is getting some direction on the library, because it looks like there's kind of been a big old fly in the ointment on the direction we were looking at with the old CVS or Rite Aid store. That seems to have been derailed somewhat for now, or at least we think so. So I think, I don't know, anybody have any suggestions in a direction to go as to?
I think that we'll talk about that in another session. Councilman Beltran, do you have any comments?
No, I don't want to add already to the list of projects. It's always a shuffleboard of what's a priority. Public safety and all that, everything's in line with, I think, what the community members would ask of us to do, and staff. There were only 4 things that were highlighted that were negatively impacting our budget. But as far as the capital improvement projects, I think as we went through the list, I think these are all things that are in need. Some have been pushed out. The only thing you had, the city manager, you had mentioned something about for the police department pushing out the communications one because of budget constraints. The only thing I didn't know if, I guess most of that money would come from Measure H and Measure I. I didn't know if there was enough to maybe push that forward, or your recommendation, because you put it out for next year, Chief, that if there's a way we could, if that's something that you guys want, because there is funding there technically, but I know sometimes there's cost overruns and some other things that we can't foresee. That was the only one that was highlighted as far as maybe that's something that you guys want now.
Yeah, one of the reasons when we're evaluating that is not looking at just our internal budget, but all of public safety's budget. and the projects, the capital projects that the fire department has moving forward, we felt that it was best for us to push that off one fiscal year, because I think that in evaluation and the briefings that I get on the current platforms and the equipment that we have, and then the implementation of the DOJ requirements for encryption, not for another year and a half or 2 years, even though most of the agencies in this area have went to encryption or are going to encryption. Just based off of all of it, not just our budget, but public safety's budget as a whole, that was one of the big reasons, is all those things led up to the decision to push it one fiscal year. Now, obviously, if we have an emergency and we need a fix in one of these areas, then we'll have to make some adjustments and get council's approval for that.
Yes, you highlighted that.
Yeah. Councilman Beltran, if I can add to your question, if there's funds available in Measure I, and that was part of the reason to provide the fund balances to the council, and if you look at that sheet, there's over $2 million that's projected to be available at the end of the fiscal year, with all things considered, operating the planned capital projects. So to your point, there is money.
A little buffer, yeah. I thought that might go to the library, but we don't know where that's going to go yet. But no, the other things was the Zalad estate, and even that's a small budget item. We don't want that to turn into the golf course where 10 years from now that's $1 million. And then also we somewhat in closed session talked about golf course ideas. The other ones, obviously the $9 million risk management. I think we're getting some ideas of what to do with this. So I just like that we're coming in budget. There's a little bit of reserve on a lot of these items, so we're not kind of spending to the dollar. But just to know that we're still in good housekeeping order as far as financial stability, I still appreciate that we're at the S&P, we still have a AA- credit rating, which is out of the top 4 ratings. I mean, that's the top 4 basically. So regardless of some of the financial issues, it's not a cancer. It's just something, hopefully going forward, as the Vice Mayor stated, we'll right the ship and set the city up for success later on. So I don't have anything additional. It was just the West Putnam sidewalk, because that's in my district. But thank you, Director Sanchez, for explaining the whole thing with Newcomb, and that will be a project that will come in due time. But I have nothing else to add. Thank you again for staff. This is a very big undertaking, and again, for the community to watch this. I don't know how long this meeting's been, but it's been very informative. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Beltran. Vice Mayor, take us home.
Well, it's just amazing the breadth and the depth of what we just went through, and it's great that everybody has contributed so much, and appreciate everybody's time and effort to put this together. I know it takes a lot, and even though it took us 3 hours to talk about it, I'm sure it took a lot more than 3 hours to put it together. Thank you so much for all the time that we spent. I just want to continue to say that this is aggressive. It's based on service and results, and that's where we want to go, and I'm really excited to see that we can balance the budget and still be aggressive. We got to make sure we're getting things done on time. We got to make sure with all of this that we're juggling, that we're not missing deadlines, and we're making sure that we're moving things in places where things get thrown at us and we have to adjust, and getting as many of these things done that we talked about here tonight. I really appreciate the deep discussions that we have with Michael. And this is the last meeting you're going to be in, Michael, and we're going to miss you. It's interesting. You don't go too far, because we're still going to want to talk to you. And, I do want to say you look great tonight, man. You dressed up for the occasion, bro. I also want to go to the public safety side. We didn't spend a lot of time on that because I have at the end, but I just love what we've been doing with securing the law and order in our city, transforming our city, as we build the byways and we transform the parkways and we secure downtown and all the areas of town where our families can go out and enjoy Porterville. And the Parks and Leisure is a centerpiece of that, Donnie. Thank you so much for all the team effort that you guys do to make sure our parks are there for our families to enjoy. It's an amazing transformation just in the 6 months, 7 months that I've been here to watch this and watch everybody grow together in the new direction and tackle some of these difficult things with finances. I just want to say thank you to everybody, and great job tonight on going through all of this. It's quite a bit. The breadth and the depth is amazing. And I appreciate all of your time and effort. Look forward to getting these things done.
Well, Assistant City Manager Knight, you heard it. It's your last meeting. Do you have any last words?
I've been told that this one I can't get away with. I have to say it from the podium so I get it on camera. Thank you for the opportunity to say something again. I really only attended tonight for another opportunity to speak, so I appreciate that. Again, can't say enough about the team you have here, so you have an amazing team working hard for you, as you can see what was presented tonight. But really want to take the opportunity tonight to continue to use my time to say thank you. There's one individual's name who has never been mentioned in council minutes, but that name has been written in every one of my successes. And so I just want to thank my wife tonight, Christy Knight. Thank you. She may have denied me up until this point, so now it's on record and everybody's going to know. So, but continue to thank her, not only for her strength, and her support and endurance, but the sacrifices over the last 20 years of maintaining a great family while I've been out splashing in the mud puddles with the fire department and the police department, and doing my best for the city of Porterville, and continuing to support me in every way. I'm very grateful for her, and continues to support me through this new chapter in my life. And so thank you is not enough, but I think it's a start, and really appreciate her. And again, in leaving, this is not my last time here at council. I've been here long enough to know that tides shift and people come and go, and some come back multiple times, and then continue to play roles in the community that develop for years to come. Whether I'm on this side or that side, or working with everybody in this room, I'm grateful for the city of Porterville, how they've treated me and welcomed me, and supported me over the years, and I will continue to do the same for them. So thank you.
Well done. Mike, if you could stay up there for just a second. You've served the city with professionalism and dedication for many years. Tonight, your fingers were on majority of these projects, and so we want to recognize you tonight, being that this is your last city council meeting in this position, but we know we'll be working together here in the near future. And so I wanted to turn the time over to Chief Costello for a presentation.
I hope I don't get emotional. Out of all the directors, besides Donnie, I've worked at the police department the longest, and the city. For the last 2 decades, I've been able to work with Mike as a peer, friend. With that, he could always be counted on. He helped us through some difficult times in the recent past. We worked extremely well together, all the department heads in this room, all the councils that we've worked for. I think I could speak for all the directors that he was a very important part of our team and the past teams. But with that, I wanted to present him with a plaque from the directors, and I'll read it. Assistant City Manager Mike Knight, in honor of your recognition for your 20 years of service and dedication to the citizens of Porterville and to the city of Porterville, 2005 to 2025. Best wishes on your next adventure.
Well, I think we should get a picture, huh?
I'm glad that he didn't say that before I spoke, so that's great.
Almost got me.
All right, Assistant City Manager, or excuse me, Acting City Manager Tree. Yeah, look, we could do, you want to do a picture, Mike?
Everybody is in.
Yeah.
That's my requirement. We're doing a picture.
Let's do it.
Take the picture.
Fernando, all right, you know what?
No, you get in it. Give me the camera. The council probably should stay up here, huh? Well, I'm just thinking. Oh, fit.
We should stay up here.
Don't fall.
Oh, gosh. Chief, you can't be in the middle, man. Out of all the people, not you.
Right in the middle. Donnie, you're staying on in.
Everybody smile. Everybody say queso.
I'm sorry for being sweaty. I think we're all going to miss you, Mr. Knight, but we know that you're not far away. You're a community member, and we appreciate the 20 years you did give to this city. So thank you, sir. Acting City Manager Tree, or is that it for comments tonight?
I just want to thank staff for their work on this capital improvement plan. Working on, I know, the countless hours to put this together. I just want to appreciate your time. I want to thank Sarah and Trish for their presentations tonight. Always try to have different staff members that play vital roles be able to highlight their efforts in front of the council, in front of the public. You did an amazing job tonight. I appreciate it. And that's it, Mayor.